Good evening. We'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board. Today is October 18th, 2016, and the time is 5:10 p.m. Mr. Jackson, would you please lead us in the pledge? Thank you. And if we could have a roll call.
Pam Kirby.
Tim Hartman.
George Jackson.
Barbara Perleberg.
And Bonnie Sneed. All members are present and we have a quorum. Sounds like the volume might need to be adjusted just a little bit.
Green light on.
We good? Okay, the first item tonight is approval of the agenda. We have amendments that were posted yesterday with amendments to 7P and 7T. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Kirby and Mrs. Perleberg. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on our agenda this evening is student and staff recognition and celebrations. Dr. Birdwell.
Am I live? Here we go. So at this time, I would like to invite up, and I believe we're going to start with Dr. Von Echten and some awards that he has, followed by Dr. Sakos.
Thank you much, Dr. Birdwell. Madam President, Government Board members, it's my pleasure tonight to make some introductions and some recognitions. First of all, if I could have from language arts teacher Shalise Doan from Ingleside join me at the podium, and her principal, Dr. Thuman, be great. Wow.
Dun, 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 dun.
Sweet.
I don't have any authority to do anything regarding that. Perhaps that's in the scope of Dr. Birdwell's superintendence. I don't know. Anyway, welcome and congratulations. Language arts teacher Shalise Doan was recently named, 2016 Middle School Teacher of Excellence by the Arizona English Teachers Association. Shalise was honored at the Fall AETA Conference at ASU West. Ingleside sixth graders have, of course, known for a long time what a great teacher she is, and now so does everyone else. Congratulations.
I do have my clerical license, so be careful.
There we go. See? And we got a Google recognition to make. If we could have technology coach Vicki Anderson join me, that'd be great. There she is. Hi, Vicki, congratulations. SUSD instructional technology coach Vicki Anderson is our first ever Google for Education certified trainer. She is one of only 7 such trainers in Phoenix metro area. I'm going to Google that. And is now certified to train other SUSD educators in how Google's next gen tools can benefit both Scottsdale students and teachers today. Congratulations, nice work. Thank you.
Dr. Sakos.
I was so excited about these celebrations, I was jumping out of my seat earlier. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. I'll first begin talking about and addressing our SUSD Foundation honorees for the 4th annual gala that all of you had an opportunity to attend. And a month ago, Dr. Birdwell talked about our 2 inductees into our Hall of Fame. Excellence, which are alumni who have not only been educated here in Scottsdale, but have moved into their particular field and have proven themselves in excellence. As you know, for civic leadership, our honoree was Charles Keating IV, who we recently lost in battle. And we also had Heather Morris, who was our showed excellence in the performing arts. Heather Morris, AKA Brittany from Glee, for those of you Glee TV watchers. But tonight we're going to share with you our students, our teachers, and our administrators who are also celebrated in those two fields. So I'll begin with civic leadership. For our teacher leader excelling in civic leadership is our very own Jilly Sanowski, Desert Canyon Middle School drama teacher. Yes, please stay. Arcadia High School senior Keaton McDonald. And Mojave Middle School principal Chris Asmussen. And go ahead and stay up here because we're going to exit for photo in just a minute. For their accomplishments in performing arts, our Chaparral High School senior Ellie Hoffman. Arcadia High School CMAS three-time Grammy nominee, Richard Maxwell. And our Tonalea K-8 co-principal, Shelley Humman. These students, teachers, and administrators exemplify excellence in everything that you do in our schools each and every day. So congratulations again, and photo opportunity right out to my left. And I'm not sure where the escort, where did he go? Dr. Thuman. All right, moving on with celebrations that is tied to the Scottsdale Unified Foundation. Over a year ago, I stood before you celebrating the partnership and professional development opportunity that our Math and Science Academy teachers from Saguaro had with TGen. I'm excited to share with you the extension of that opportunity into Honor Health. We have reignited our partnership and expanded the opportunity for professional development for our teachers, our STEM teachers, not only at Saguaro High School, but also other high schools as well. And before I call all of our teacher researchers to the podium to come on up, I'm going to introduce Dr. Mark Slater. He is not only a foundation a board member, but he is also the Vice President of Research at Honor Health, and to share a few words about what these 9 teachers were able to do over 3 days of their October break in the labs and in the hospitals at Honor Health. Dr. Mark Slater.
Thank you, Melissa. First, we'd like to express our appreciation to the SUSD Foundation for supporting this program. And we were so impressed with the teachers that gave up their fall break to come and spend 3 intensive days of training with us in the lab and in the clinic. And we're very passionate about work that is changing the lives of people in our community, with many of them with devastating diseases who are suffering, and advancing that cause. So for us, that's something we're used to doing, but to see people from that are spending every day educating our young people, coming with equal enthusiasm and passion and spending that time. The students in our community are truly fortunate to have them there. We focus this intensive education on what we call bench to bedside to classroom. So taking a look at basic science and translational science that moves into clinical care and clinical research, and then into understanding how we can take those learnings and move those into the classroom. Before you see the curriculum. The faculty had the opportunity to meet with, hear from, and work with over 30 scientists, physicians, and medical research professionals during their time there, with work on cancer, heart disease, metabolic and obesity, the trauma unit. They worked on medical simulations and many other areas. Our excitement is then in looking at biosciences opportunities as a major economic driver for our community and opportunity for our students in the future. And so giving exposure to these resources that are right here in our community and being able to take these into the classroom to prepare our next generation, I think it's a terrific opportunity. We were happy to have them, and we look forward to continuing to work with them throughout the year for both your faculty and your students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, all right, so Dr. Slater and I will introduce you to our teacher researchers. Marcy Cameron Sawaro. Sean Collier Sawaro. Steve Gislinger Chaparral. Amy Johnson Sawaro. Susan Lindberg, who is our chair of Math and Science Academy at Sawaro. Heather Mall, Sawaro. Derek Meets, Sawaro. Matt Bonert, were you able to join us this evening? He's teaching tonight. And I didn't miss anybody, did I?
6, 7.
Oh, my goodness. This is actually our year one teacher inductee in the Hall of Excellence, Eric Bosnick. And what an introduction I gave him, and he was not here. However, again, here are your teacher researchers. We couldn't be more proud of how you represented SUSD at Honor Health, and I really wish I had a white lab coat to present to all of you because, yes, they're in the classroom. So, again, great work, everybody.
Thank you.
Just again, Dr. Slater, thank you so much. Dr. Slater, you would need to take your picture, but I also want to say thank you one more time. But if you don't mind being in the photo with those teachers, they would love that. We were just having a conversation today with Arizona State University and the Charros about the importance of teachers having an opportunity to go into the field and what a difference that will make in the teaching of children, because we take the knowledge now and we apply it into industry. This is just the prime example of what we were talking about, and I can't thank our teachers enough for the sacrifice of giving up that very critical moment of fall break to spend time in the hospital researching. So again, just to commend our teachers, and I know she walked out, but for Dr. Sakos to continue to work on the foundation, I very much appreciate her work and what she does. And I believe Dr. Benson has a couple recognitions this evening.
I do, I get one. Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. Tonight, I am pleased to have the opportunity to recognize our fine arts academic coach, Miss Janet Blum. I would like to invite Janet to come with me and spend time with me at the podium. Janet has recently been identified by the Arizona Art Education Association as the 2016 Outstanding Leader in Arts Education. Janet has over 30 years of experience as an educator, and she served as an academic coach for almost a decade. Her contributions to our district and the Scottsdale community have been significant. The partnerships she has established afford our students with opportunities to learn and showcase their talents on a variety of stages across our valley. In addition to the Kennedy Center, Janet has affiliations with Empty Bowls, the Center for Performing Arts, the Department of Ed, the MIM, Sister Cities, Visions Center for Performing Arts, Delta Kappa, and the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Arts. Janet will pick up this award next month in Tucson, where she'll also be working, as they've asked her to present on the new state fine arts standards while she's there. We've been very fortunate to have Janet supporting and nurturing fine and performing arts across Scottsdale for the better part of 4 decades. I just want to give a shout out because her mother is here to watch Janet receive this award. So thank you, Janet's mom. Again, please join me in recognizing Janet for this award and for the many years of education and service to our kids, our district, and our community.
Janet, feel free to have your mom in the photo. Thank you so much. And we so appreciate that she came. And again, thank you for what you do. The arts are critical to all aspects of learning, so Scottsdale couldn't be prouder.
Thank you so much.
And now, Dr. McNeil.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. I am fortunate enough tonight to announce this year's Mayor's Constitution Day contest. 5 Scottsdale Unified School District students were recently named grand prize winners in the Scottsdale Mayor's Constitution Day contest. Students from grades 1st through high school competed in 3 divisions by grade level and submit either a piece of art or an essay entry. We'd like to recognize the following students and schools. So when I announce, if the principals could come up and bring their students, that would be fabulous. I will note there were 6 grand prize winners. Scottsdale won 5 of the 6. So only one other district that plays with Scottsdale received that. So yay. First off, if Principal Kaiser and Melanie McIntyre could come to the podium. Anasazi School, Principal Link from Desert Canyon Middle School, and Jordan Shane, if Jordan's here. Yay. Principal Holland from Chaparral. I know Jeannie Coe is here. I don't know if Lexi's here. If Lexi's here, come on up. And, oh, let's clap for them. And Principal Hoffman from Kokopah, and Zachary Atrowski. If they can come up as well. So, Lance, if you're here, come on up. Yeah. All right, first off, Melanie McIntyre from Anasazi Elementary School was the 1st through 5th grade essay winner. Melanie wrote 250 words essay about what the Constitution means to her. So, Melanie, can you wave to everybody? Next, Jordan Shane from Desert Canyon Middle School won the 6th through 8th grade essay competition for his 500-word essay. He chose one of the constitutional amendments and wrote about why it was important to American society. So, Jordan, if you can wave to everybody, that would be fabulous. I know. Jeannie Coe from Chaparral was the 9th through 12th grade art winner. Jeannie submitted a piece of art that presented her thoughts on how the Constitution provides safeguards for a democratic republic. I'd love to see it. And lastly, Zachary Astrowski was the 6th through 8th grade art winner. He chose one of the Constitution's amendments and illustrated why the amendment is important to American society. So nice job, Zachary. Congratulations to all the grand prize winners for the 2016 Mayor's Constitution Day contest. I also would like to point out that Board Member Perleberg and myself had the opportunity to visit Kiva Elementary School, where Mayor Lane actually attended. Wasn't it great, Barbara?
A lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Well, let's just tell you what happened. The teachers, the 2nd grade team at Kiva, Miss Harvey, Miss Fredericks, and Miss Kialva, submitted for the whole 2nd grade a video as well as a writing piece, and it was the first time ever that Mayor Lane decided to come out, and he held court with the 2nd grade students for a good 35 minutes, answered questions. They all came in with questions. Some pretty tough questions, too, that he couldn't answer. So I want to celebrate Kiva and the 2nd grade team, and of course, Principal Noonan there as well as all of our great students and principals for doing a great job on this endeavor. Way to go, guys. Thanks, guys.
Next item on our agenda is Item 5, public comment. This is the chance for the public that we welcome you to come and share your thoughts with us. What we need is a blue card filled out for non-agenda items, a white card for agenda items. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and Vice President Perleberg will assist you in that regard. And also, please make sure that your comments are respectful in nature. The first one we have is Kathy Skinner.
Good evening, Dr. Birdwell, Governing Board, Madam President. My name is Kathy Skinner, and I am an 18-year veteran of the Scottsdale Unified School District. I'm also a product of the Scottsdale Unified School District, going from preschool to high school and all the way through. My parents are retired Scottsdale Unified School District high school teachers. I've seen a lot. I've been around a lot. I want to share with you something that we started this year at our school called the Growth Mindset, and the book we've been asked to read. I'm so excited to have read the first half of the book, and 2 colleagues and I have decided to use this as our goals. And what I want to share with you is some positives. My students took a survey today to see if they have a growth mindset. They were asked 3 questions. First question is, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Everyone can learn new things. They all agreed that you can learn. The first one of them said, everyone can learn, it's just everyone learns at their own pace. Another one said, I think everyone can learn new things because we have the ability to learn things in our own way, and if we can still try to learn something new. The last one on that question I wanted to share. I think everyone can learn new things because even though everyone is at a different learning level, your brain can still gather the information. The second question was, some kids are born smarter than others. That was a tougher one for them to answer. I'm going to have some work to do. But some of the great answers that I had that came back, yes, because some kids are smarter than others because of how they eat. They know it's their nutrition that's getting them where they are. I agree that some people were blessed with a gift, but that doesn't mean they are better or smarter than the other students around them. I want to remind you, these are 4th and 5th graders. Third question, we can change how smart we are. They all agreed that intelligence isn't fixed. I am so proud of that, and it's such a celebration. The more we read and learn, the more we get smarter. I think kids can easily get smarter and smarter by reading and learning, and some kids take the easy way out. But they don't get as smart as the ones that try hard. Last one. Yes, because our brains are pattern-seeking devices. We learn new things every day. I wanted to share this with you because I'm so proud of them. These are the students from the district, and they're showing a growth mindset at the young ages of 9, 10, 11, and 12. Thank you.
Julie Siniowski.
Good evening, board members, Madam President, Dr. Birdwell, and Sandra. As a proud teacher and SEA member, I am deeply committed to the success of every student. Students are at the center of everything we do. All students deserve learning opportunities that begin by age 4, safe schools, classes small enough for one-on-one attention, and modern facilities with up-to-date tools and resources. I think we all agree with that. We face many challenges to achieve these basic needs, however. We are living in a society where finances reign direction and profit supersedes common sense and the care for others. So what do? We can make excuses, point fingers and blame, expect others to make good decisions for us, and stay stuck. Or we can work hard at creating the change we want and our children deserve. We have many opportunities before us. We can make a difference by choosing to support our schools in all possible ways. This means we spend real energy and resources retaining and attracting the best teachers, We retain them by paying them well, treating them with dignity and respect, and we need to be certain to take the time to ask teachers how we can best support them and make it a priority to support them. Our tasks as educators are as unique as the students we serve, and we cannot assume one size fits all. We cannot assume why challenges exist. We cannot assume the needs of one will support all. Supporting our teachers also includes passing our bond and our capital override. We need to make certain all of our employees and our residents understand the value of these measures, and we all need to do our best to ensure that all of our stakeholders vote. This is in the best interest of our children, our district, and Scottsdale's future. Lastly, we can support our schools by securing appropriate funding from our state, and this means we need to make certain we elect public officials who support our core values for public education. Within the next few weeks, we will all be asked to make decisions about the next generation. We need to be diligent that we all make the time to share our passions for public education and encourage others to support these interests through their votes. Thank you for your time.
Bonnie Asali.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. It's been a while. It has been a while since I've addressed the board, and I've had a chance to work with all of you over the last few years, and I hope you know about me is I try to be a problem solver. I deeply care about my students. I'm very passionate, especially about public education, advocating for public education. And I try to be diplomatic in all of this. As you can imagine, it's a little hard to do at times. There have been several issues that we've seen eye to eye on, and there's been several issues that we have not seen eye to eye on. And both of those have been very valuable, because either way, regardless of whether we agree or disagree, I think the more we communicate, the better we're able to understand each other and be able to move ahead. And I've been able to grow from those experiences, so I appreciate that. So even when we don't agree, I heard this from what I consider to be a wise person, there's always one guiding practice that I think we should all think about. If we don't agree on the results or the decision made, we have to look at the process used to reach that result. So was the process transparent? Was it thoughtful? Was it implemented with integrity? Was it inclusive? Did it get stakeholder input? Did it look at quantitative, qualitative data, and did it reach consensus for that decision to be made? While these seem tedious at times, especially sometimes when it's a little decision to make, ensuring we adhere to the FAIR process makes it better, because even if we don't agree of the results, we can all at least agree that the process to get there was fair and equitable for everyone. So for a Scottsdale school district that's this big, I think it's valuable that we always have a process and we always honor it. One of those processes that's important that's coming up is the superintendent selection process. On the current website, it shows that in the fall of 2016, the board will be selecting a hiring vendor. I'm not sure if that's happened or that's been discussed yet, but I think like anything else, it's important to continue to follow through on the selection process. Given the size of our district, I think it's valuable to see what's out there, who are the candidates, really get to know them to make sure we make the best choice. I've shared this with some of you, speaking one-on-one before Dr. Birdwell was hired as interim, and after we found out who Dr. Birdwell is. So if Dr. Birdwell ends up being the best candidate, that's great. But I think for a district this big, having that process that's very thoughtful only ends up being very beneficial for the entire community. I do understand that there's a cost involved. I believe it's about the $50,000 range to hire a vendor. There's an RFP. But our district's operating budget is about $178 million. So 50 grand is about it's 0.03% of the budget. So I think for something that insignificant in terms of cost, it ends up playing a huge role in terms of the leader that we select for SUSD. So please continue to move forward with the selection process, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Christine Marsh.
Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Birdwell and Ms. Como, my name is Christine Marsh, and even though I'm almost always at board meetings, I haven't addressed the board for almost a year. In fact, in the past in the past 4 years, I've only addressed the board 4 or 5 times. However, this issue is important enough to bring me out of hibernation. This is my 25th year at Chaparral, and I have lived through 11 different superintendents during that time. I lived through years in which we were paying 2 or even 3 superintendents at a time. It's very difficult to find the right leader, and it makes the most sense to follow a thoughtful, meaningful process. I ask that you start that process to get this right this time. Maybe Dr. Birdwell will be the one to get the permanent job, but we owe it to our students, teachers, and community members to go through an extensive, even exhaustive nationwide search to find the exact right fit. The fact that there will be a superintendent search has been on the district website for many months, and it seems past due for the details of how and when that will happen to ensure that it is transparent and public. For example, when will it start? Will it be a nationwide search? Will there be a committee of stakeholders who are allowed to offer input? If you are not using a committee, how will you meaningfully engage stakeholders? Will there be some kind of a rubric that you and/or committee members use? If so, what will be the criteria on that rubric? Perhaps these are questions that Arizona School Boards Association takes care of, or whatever the search engine is, and I hope that's the case. But we've gotten zero information about the search, and we've heard too many rumors that there won't even be one. As you know, rumors and perceptions somewhat rule this district. Maybe they rule all districts, I don't know. But I do know that too many people are frightened and filled with anxiety. You can easily reduce that anxiety by being transparent about when and how the superintendent search will proceed. Thank you for your time.
The next still doesn't sound like it's done. The next item on the agenda is Superintendent Comments.
President State Governing Board, let me start by just saying that we had on October 1st the Love Our Schools Day, and we want to thank all the Valley Faith organizations who rolled up their sleeves and showed up on a Saturday at 14 of our SUSD schools with projects that are just kind of hard to do when kids are around, so easier to do when the students aren't necessarily on the campus. And it's everything from cleaning and organizing classrooms to sweeping those dusty sidewalks and stairwells and planting flowers and painting basketball courts. And some of them even wrote letters of appreciation to the school staff. So we are grateful for this type of kindness, and we appreciate the support of the community. Also, the second annual SUSD Showcase, the showcase at Cocopa Middle School, is coming up this Saturday, October 22nd from 10 to 1. The event celebrates the great learning and opportunities that occur every day in the Scottsdale schools. The showcase is free and open to the public. Last year we actually had about 1,500. We're hoping we get a few more this year, maybe 2,000. There are musical performances from the elementary, middle, and high school student groups, artwork on display from our students at all grade levels, and there's some food and some door prizes as well. So we hope that the community will come out for those events. Critical Language College and Career Night. This event takes place on Tuesday, November 1st. Mark that calendar, Saguaro High School. And it is an opportunity for students and parents to find out what post-secondary educational and career opportunities are available today by being fluent in those critical and strategic foreign languages that we teach in Scottsdale, such as the Japanese, the Mandarin, Chinese, or Russian. Local professionals will be on hand to share their experiences, and the event is sponsored by our critical language team. Now here's some really great news. National Merit Scholarship Program. We recently learned that 22 of our seniors have been named semi-finalists in the annual National Merit Scholarship Program. In addition, we had another 63 of our seniors that received letters of commendation for their outstanding academic promise. Bottom line is that our students are doing very well on the PSAT, and it says that our students have the aptitude for very high performance in the very top. So we appreciate that and their hard work as students. But this competition looks at about 7,500 national merit scholarships. So when you're talking the numbers that we have, that is outstanding. Also, the 2016 Bond and Override Election Committee information meetings, we finished all 5 of those in all of the learning communities, and we were out and shared the facts in regard to the bond and the override, and that's pretty much all I get to say. Can't go any further than that, other than the fact that we appreciated community members who showed up. In the Sangai Foundation Arizona State's first robotics championship, Arcadia High School hosted a day-long competition this past Saturday. Top 30 Arizona high school robotics teams. 3 Scottsdale teams competed: Arcadia, Coronado, and Saguaro. We were informed just this afternoon that Saguaro, which team with Coconino High School in Flagstaff and Westwood High School in Mesa, took second place. So congratulations. And we are so appreciative of our students, their continued, I have to again say, robotics happens because of wonderfully dedicated teachers and students, and we can't do enough to support these programs. So again, we thank them for all of their time and effort and volunteerism. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Birdwell. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We need to approve that. It's been amended to exclude item T at this time. Can I have a motion to approve? Mrs. Hartman.
I will motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Okay,
I'll second that.
thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Hartman and Mr. Jackson. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion passes 5-0. The next item on our agenda this evening is information discussion item 8A. We are talking about this, right? Even though it's not admission, we're still talking, okay. Principal and teacher classification.
All right, here we go. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. This evening we'll be looking at the high-level data around teacher and principal classification, and just the reason why I am sharing it is because it is required by the state. We have a state statute that says that governing board members shall discuss at a public meeting at least annually its aggregated performance classifications of teachers and principals. So we just have it broken up by the entire district for teachers that fall under a classification. We have 4 categories, you remember: highly effective, effective, developing, and ineffective. And then on the top column are the raw numbers, and then the percents that fall into each category. So 73% were highly effective, 26% effective, and less than 1% in the developing or ineffective. We have the exact same categories for our principal classification. And the Administrator Evaluation Committee is the one that worked on the different components. Same with the teachers. Teacher evaluation worked on those components. So we have highly effective, effective, developing, and ineffective, and this is the breakdown of the principal classifications for this past school year. Any questions?
Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you. Do we have, is this publicly available information across other school districts in Arizona? And have we benchmarked ourselves?
I have not.
guess-
I know the state asked for it, but I don't think they publicize it, but I can check.
Just of similar
Yeah.
districts?
Yep.
I would be interested in seeing what that information looks like.
Mrs. Hartman.
Thank you. Let's see. First of all, thank you, Dr. Sitton, for going through this process. I know performance evaluations are always a very love-hate process within any organization. Can you go back to the slide on principal and then maybe even teacher? So here's my question. And believe me, I am coming from a place where I believe that our Scottsdale teachers and our site leaders are among the very best. But I also come from a place of just from a business perspective in that it is really difficult. It is not typical that 73% of teachers and 7%?
For the administrators?
For administrators would necessarily all be highly effective. And I'm not saying that to question the performance by any means. I come from a place of continuous improvement. And so continuous improvement can only exist if there is, you know, a level set. So, and I know and this is a very sensitive topic, and I've come from organizations that everything it's from forced ranking to check-ins once a quarter. So I've seen the whole gamut of what performance evaluations can look like. So I'm just wondering, do we think that this truly reflects, I mean, maybe benchmarks would help us understand, but does this really truly reflect where we think, are we being honest with ourselves in the process so that we can continuously improve, you know, our district, our professional craft?
All right, Mrs. Hartman. I think that you have to remember that this is something that the state lawmakers came up with in order to give out $301. So you can actually have a developing on an evaluation and still be effective, because we know that we always want continual growth, and so the developing on an evaluation isn't something that should be looked at as something bad, because we all need to improve in certain areas. So, and also another point I think that might overinflate some of it is that our B teachers in the past, or under the current system, it's just based on the district letter grade. So if that means that most of the B teachers all fall in highly effective because the district letter grade was an A. So and that's for the B teachers. They didn't have the pre-post data to use for B teachers. So I think that probably overinflates how many are in the highly effective category when the B teachers relied on a district letter grade of an A. So if that were to change some, then you would see these numbers shift.
I'm not sure, is this working? Can I ask a follow-up question? So if I recall, the recommendation is to turn to a 67-33% evaluation, 67% being site leadership, is that right? Evaluation, and 33% being school-wide?
They're school-wide data, correct.
So I'm just not sure how we differentiate to provide the appropriate professional development if everybody looks the same on a piece of paper.
Board Member Hartman, we are actually doing some great work this year on inter-rater reliability. We've got our new Director of HR, Ms. Doyle, has had one session already, and we have another one planned for December, that we are looking at video clips of classrooms and actually having conversations around what's the difference between developing highly effective, effective, or ineffective, and we're working on that because the majority of the classification does come from the evaluation. That's what drives what the classification is. So we are working on that with the building leaders this year.
President Sneed, Governing Board, Mrs. Hartman. I've been around a long time. So in the field of education, I was one of the individuals at the state level that took on some of this difficult research early on at the state board level. That said, there was never the intent to say that every teacher is highly effective and that they're a master teacher. So this data is a little bit concerning as a superintendent, because what it does say is that the system that we have automatically puts people into highly effective, and that sometimes sends the wrong message. It says I don't have room to improve, that I've reached the pinnacle of my career, that I am the master teacher. And in reality, there's nothing wrong with being developing. Matter of fact, research will tell us that most beginning teachers are developing. They come out of the college not an automatic master teacher, that most teachers come out and they need to grow and learn, and we ought to create an environment that nurtures growth, that professional development is critical for their learning, and that process goes on for the first 5 years of teaching and continues in year 6 and year 7. So developing shouldn't be a bad place to be. It means I'm growing. Unfortunately, when we put high-stake results tied to labels, we get skewed results. And when we tied things like $301 to labels of teachers, what we saw were the skewing of results in order to make sure that every teacher received dollars, and that's an unfortunate piece of this. Because I don't think the people who began this research and the shift in the state intended that result. In the same hand, there's nothing wrong with an effective teacher, and I met with some teachers yesterday and tried to explain that effective means I'm doing a great job with my kids. My kids are learning, they're growing. I'm a good teacher. We're not all master teachers every day. But highly effective should be the master teacher. If this was reversed and 26% sat in highly effective and 70% sat ineffective, I would feel better about that. But until we have time to dialogue with teachers and help them understand that we're saying when you're effective, you're doing a great job. We have to shift that culture, because we've been telling them that to be, we really misled our teachers in our definition, and it's just an unfortunate system. But in reality, from a research perspective, these two numbers are reversed. And that's the unfortunate part of this. So I think the state intended to be able to get more teachers effective, be able to provide $301. They tied two things together that don't in our field go well together, because we know teachers are underpaid. So no one wants to keep a teacher from dollars. But in the reality, we've also somewhat inflated our titles here. And that's not to say that I don't think we have great teachers, but I think a great teacher is an effective teacher. And I think you have to come from a different understanding of teaching, and we need to work through that. That rate of reliability is critical, and to tell teachers that it's okay. Because right now, if you gave a teacher an effective label, they're insulted. And we shouldn't be, because effective means we're doing a great job with kids. And we ought to feel good about that. But we have to shift the definition and help people understand what that means before you see the shift in numbers.
Did you have another one? Okay. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 8B, proposed school year district calendars for 2018-19, 2019-20, and 2020-21.
It's me again. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of history walk here, because last year we did a survey. And so you can remember we used to have a 10-year template. It ended in 16-17, so this year the template ended. But last year, on January 12th of 2016, the governing board discussed the components of the calendar structure that the community would like to see in our templates moving forward. And so last January, you approved the 17-18 school calendar, because we know our parents like to be a year to 2 years out as they're planning vacations and trips and just their schedules. So we took a look at feedback from parents, staff, and students. So this evening, you're going to have the next 3 school year calendars based on that same criteria we used to build next year's calendar of 2017-18. So we'll take a look at what some of that data was that we used. We did do a survey. We had over 3,900 surveys taken last year. The survey was offered online through an email communication as well. 2 of our sites offered them on campus for parents during conference time, so they had computers set up. We also had the Student Advisory Board actually provided input and took the survey also. The first question looked at how satisfied were they with our current template. And we asked them to go ahead and look at the priority. So we had a good number that were satisfied with the survey. And then when we looked at what the priorities were, what was most important to each of those stakeholder groups? So most important for parents and students was having the final exams before winter break and having as many instructional days as possible prior to state testing. For employees, the top priority was having the fall break, with having as many instructional days before the state testing. So the top 3 priorities and the bottom 3 priorities were the exact same for parents and for our employees. Students for fall break, they had a little different, their 3rd priority was different than the other 2 groups. So we also sent out in that survey is different templates. We had 4 calendars that we sent out as mock-ups for them. Template 1 was based on the current. Template 2 had the shorter fall break. 3 was a modified year-round with the 2 weeks off in the fall and the spring. And then template 4 was starting after Labor Day. So this just shows you what each of the groups preferred. Each of the groups' largest percent was staying with the current template that we had been using for the last 10 years. You might recall that there were over 40 comments relating to having Wednesday off before Thanksgiving, and 75 comments to change the week off of fall break to be the week of Thanksgiving. So we actually made that adjustment in next year's calendar. You actually see last year you approved to have that Wednesday off prior to Thanksgiving. So what Cabinet did was they took a look at the next 3 years beyond that and proposed calendars for you to consider. But keeping in mind that the comment of Thanksgiving off, you will notice that in the 18-19, that Wednesday is not off because there's two recess days in September that we look at, are there going to be high absentees because of different things that fall in that month. So in order to get off the week prior to Memorial Day, we needed an extra day in there because there was one extra day in September. So Cabinet had the conversation, and what they did not want to do was to move the last day of school to a Friday, because you remember it was important to the community to have, and the principals especially, to have graduation in school end on a Thursday instead of the Friday night for graduation. And we did not want to take one of the 2 days in September that would end up being a high absentee days for us and move that. So what Cabinet's recommendation is to have that Wednesday as an early release before Thanksgiving. So it would be a half day for people that needed to get some travel done still, but it would not have to trade off either a Friday graduation or one of the other days in September off. The other calendars are much easier. They truly follow the template. They have the exams before winter break, which was really important for our high school students. They have the full week of fall break. We do end before Memorial Day, and the Wednesday is off for Thanksgiving. And then the 2020, 2021, look at that start date of August 10th. We were able to get into that double digit. And it follows everything else still. Fall break, Memorial Day, Wednesday off for Thanksgiving, high school exams before winter break. These are drafts for you that we've put together for discussion for the board to have.
Mrs. Hartman, did you have a question?
No, I think my button's working.
Oh, well, I will. Okay, I canceled it. We'll see how it works now. Mrs. Kirby, did you have a question?
Thank you. Is this working?
Yeah, they're just not really loud.
Is this working? Yes. Okay. I just have a, not specific to any calendar, but a broad general question with respect to the half-day early releases for professional development. I've always wondered, have not really ever gotten a very confident, firm answer. Are the students better off having half-days, knowing what the schedules look like for the half-days, particularly at the high school level for professional development, or are the students better off if we consolidate those half-days and give them full days off so that the teachers still get the same amount of PD, but the students don't have that jammed schedule, particularly at the high school level? Or are we better off dropping it in monthly, kind of more frequently, like the current calendars do?
Yeah. Madam President, Board Member Kirby, I think part of that response comes down to funding, that if we were to do a full day off for teachers to have that extended time to learn, that we do not get ADM for that day if it's full day, and then Danny's going to tell you something different.
Good evening, Board Member Curry, Madam President. State statute states that we have to have 180 days of instruction. So if we consolidate those days, then we either have to add days onto the calendar, because even though we look at them as half days, we get enough instructional time that it actually counts as a full day at the state level.
Okay, so I remember that now. So then I guess my follow-up question would be, is there an opportunity for us to better structure those half days for, in particular, those high school students? Because if my memory serves me correctly, those half-day class periods are so abrupt and abbreviated that not much learning is happening. And that may have changed, but that's really what I'm trying to get at. Because yes, we may be getting the funding because the students are attending class, but are they learning, which is what we really want to have happen.
And I think I'll take that. And Dr. Benson, we will look into how those days are looking. I'm seeing some principals raise their eyebrows that say, yes, they have changed. But we'll get back with a report of how those days look to the governing board, because I think it's important that you know what is happening on those days so that we dispel any rumors that may be occurring.
Mrs. Perlenberg.
Just jump in, having a high schooler. myself, I know, and I assume it's for all high schools, they have been extended. They are now, as my daughter loves to point out, it's not really a half day. It's just a shorter day. And so I think they do have more instructional time, and that's the first time this year, that it was a little longer for them.
Yeah, President Sneed, Governing Board, thank you. Yes, when we looked at the minutes of the day, we also made sure that those minutes were taken into calculation, so the high schools did get a bit more time, and the high school students will tell you, it's not a half day.
Oh, yes. I
It's
hear
an
it
early
every month.
release.
Thank you.
I follow, and I appreciate the jest, but, extending a half day by just a little bit more, if you're saying that you've taken a class period and you've taken it now from 20 minutes to 22 minutes, I'm making up numbers, I don't know that's what I'm asking. What does it look like today?
Okay, we'll put that on a future agenda item. I had a question. Well, first of all, I have a comment. I wanted to thank you for going back and seeing what as a former calendar committee member, I hear some groans. I want to thank you for going back and reviewing what was important to the stakeholders and the community. And if I remember correctly, the last time the calendar committee met, we were scheduled to meet for 6 months, and probably came to consensus within 3 meetings, really, because we just narrowed it down to what we could agree on. And one of the things that helped us come to an agreement was the 10-year template, because what that did was made it focus on the student when we talk 10 years, rather than the elementary or the middle or the high school. And so what might benefit a child or be a detriment to a child in elementary school or be a little bit of a hardship for elementary parents will eventually help that same student when they go to high school. So I know from the groans that there are a couple people still in the room that remember that. But I wanted to thank you for following along with that. Along that same line, so my question is, why 3 years going forward?
President Sneed, I think it was just so many things change out. I think even the last 10-year template that was in place, we still came back to you for approval of some of those calendars within those 10 years.
Right.
So this would just give us 3 years down the road to see, does the state change anything? Does instructional days change at all? So that we can bring more, but to give enough notice to parents out there that they can plan a couple things a couple years out.
Okay. Well, and I'll be honest, what happened is, what I saw happen over the years is that a parent of an elementary student would serve on the calendar committee and vote very strongly in one direction that would help their student, and then come back and be on the calendar committee again as a high school parent and totally change because, so I just think that there's some kind of comfort in knowing that there are 3 or 4 things that we value, and those were the 4 things that you really hit within the template are things that the entire committee, regardless of what level they were at, they all valued that. So thank you for sticking with that. And honestly, this is the one thing that that I'm glad the administration took care of it, quite frankly, rather than having a committee, as long as you're taking into consideration what was important to the stakeholders. So thank you for that. Do we have, Ms. Kirby, did you have another thought? Okay. Next item on the agenda is 8C, update on Mandarin program at Desert Canyon Elementary School.
So nice to have the support of your colleagues behind you. Very lucky. Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. As the proud principal of Desert Canyon Elementary School, I am excited to be here tonight to provide information on the Mandarin Experience Dual Language Program that will begin August of 2017. There we go. Our vision for the Dual Mandarin Immersion Program is to produce students who are prepared to use professional level communication in 2 languages. We chose Mandarin as a language for our program for many reasons. A few that are up here. If a person knows Mandarin and English, they can speak to 50% of the world's population. It is the most widely spoken first language in the world. In addition to the People's Republic of China and Taiwan, Mandarin Chinese is also spoken on the important and influential Chinese communities in Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, and Mongolia. Mandarin Chinese is considered a critical language to the future security and economic strength of the United States. Finally, it's competition in a global society. Many U.S. companies do business in China. They have long-term investments there. Success at the international level requires not only language, but cultural sophistication. There are more gifted students in China than all students in the United States, and it is imperative to give our students skills and the language necessary to compete in this ever-competing workforce. When we look at the Bloomberg rankings for the language of business, you can see Mandarin comes in at number 1, second only to English. International businesses prefer to hire people who speak more than 1 language. China has become a huge market, and business leaders are looking for people who can speak Chinese and operate successfully in a Chinese cultural context. A few years ago, Delaware, which is a major credit card processing center, was courting an international multi-million-dollar credit card business. However, the company decided to take their business to Germany because their workforce's ability to use multiple language. The governor of Delaware then decided that he needed to develop a very aggressive plan to create a highly proficient workforce, which included language immersion programs at the elementary level. There we go. There are many benefits to exposing our students to a second language during their early school years. Research has shown that students who learn a second language have increased intellectual flexibility and potential. They have solid academic achievement, many times outscoring their non-immersion peers. Being in an immersion program allows students to have the most effective level of mastery of language. It gives students cultural agility and sophistication, and gives students the opportunity for economic competitiveness. And more benefits that go with learning a second language at an early age. Another benefit is the relationship between world language student and increased mathematical skill development, particularly in the area of problem solving. A 2007 study in Massachusetts showed that students who studied a foreign language in an articulated sequence outperformed their non-foreign language learning peers on the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System. And there was slight significant achievement in 2 to 3 years, and then after 7 to 8 years, you could really see the difference between the scores of the immersion peers and their non-immersion peers. The model that we are looking to use at Desert Canyon Elementary is a partial immersion program, or a 50-50 model. And what this means is that we will have 2 classes who choose to enroll in the Mandarin program. One class will spend the morning learning Mandarin language arts, math, and science from a native-speaking Mandarin teacher who only speaks Mandarin, while the other class is learning reading, writing, social studies with their English-speaking teacher. The students then switch halfway through the day, exposing students to both languages and all subjects. We would look to start this in 2017 and 18 with kindergarten, and we would add the next grade level each year. The model we are looking to follow mirrors the Utah dual language immersion model, and Utah has been very successful with the rollout of their immersion models, becoming a leader in the country. As you can see from the pie chart, students receive 50% of their instruction in Mandarin and 50% in English. You're just looking at the different subject areas. So in order for us to have a successful Mandarin immersion program, it's important to have support from other schools in the state and the country. We also look to partner with a sister school in China. So Dr. McNeil and I will be visiting Beijing in 3 short weeks. And we are visiting with, we're going to Beijing and Henan with the College Board in Hanban. This trip will allow us to establish connections with schools and universities around the world. This trip will also allow us to travel to schools in China, meet with students, visit universities and future teachers, as well as have a better understanding of China's rich culture and history. We look forward to coming back after our trip and sharing our experience with you. Foreign language is an idea whose time really has come. Students in other countries learn 3 to 4 languages, while many schools in the United States do not offer foreign language until middle or high school years. We're excited to engage, educate, and empower our students through the Mandarin experience. As a thank you, we would like to give you our Chinese knots, which means good luck, so that you can display in your home, your office, your car, wherever you would like to. And we are really excited for this opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Mrs. Kirby?
Too many devices here. Thank you for the presentation. Could you talk a bit more about the rollout? So
Absolutely.
Next year, kindergarten, is it optional, or is it every kindergartner will participate in the program?
Board Member Kirby, Madam President, this would be an optional program, so we're calling it the Mandarin Experience. So when we do information meetings, especially we will start as soon as we get back from China, moving into the open enrollment period, as well as kindergarten roll-up, we will have information meetings where parents will have the option to enroll, and there will be an application form that we will go through. And so when we max out around our 52 kids, then we start a wait list, because the hope is to have 2 classes so that you can switch halfway through the day.
So 52 kids, 2 classes, 26 kindergartners per class in a Mandarin immersion program?
Before we hit a wait list, yes. But we have, what? Sorry. We currently have the staff, I'm sorry, as you look at the rollout of it, we currently have staff in place that when you look at doing a Mandarin program, you have to align your curriculum with the Mandarin language. I joke that you can't go to Lakeshore and buy the alphabet in the Chinese characters. So we are really lucky to have a teacher who is a leader really in the state. She's worked in Minnesota in their dual Mandarin immersion program. She's helped develop IB curriculum, as well as coming from Whispering Winds Academy that offers the dual Mandarin immersion. She taught first grade there. Megan Chen is her name, and she is really working on our curriculum development, working with the ASU Confucius Institute, providing professional development, so that we are ready to go day one.
Okay, thank you. So a follow-up question would be back to the Utah model that you presented. What does that model recommend for class size?
Dr. Wong?
I was just going to say, Dr. Wong or Dr. Nance, do you recall that in any of your training prior?
No, there's no recommended class size. It's based upon the district and the school that they're
Okay, so 26 just seems high to me, and that's probably, I'm guessing it's in line with all of our kindergarten classes across the district, which I understand that rationale, but I'm just challenging you, is just because that's true, is that really the right class size cap to make this successful? It just...
Well, Board Member Kirby, President Sneed, well, we currently right now have a Mandarin exposure model that we are offering to all of our students, and we have kindergarten classes right now that are about 27 students, and they are picking up the Mandarin quickly. They're engaged in it because it is something different, and the point of also bringing a teacher on board early is to be able to go in and watch our current kindergarten teachers right now, because when you have the English side teacher and the Mandarin teacher, we joke that it really is a marriage. The 2 rooms need to mirror each other. And so the Mandarin teacher right now is able to go in and observe and make sure that classroom management are the same in both rooms. But our current kindergartens right now at 27 students are able to be engaged in the lessons. They're getting up, they're moving, and they're learning the language quickly. During our Mid-Autumn Festival that we had back in September, they were able to perform their songs. The dialect that they're already producing is almost native speaker-like.
Okay, and I'll leave it here. I think that even 26 is too high for a traditional kindergarten class, much less a Mandarin class, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if it concerns, while I love the program, I'm very excited about it. I'm very, very grateful that Dr. Birdwell has allowed us to move forward with this and supported it.
Absolutely.
But I want to make sure that we support it appropriately. And, you know, we evaluate this class size and think through it a little bit more, not to increase it by any means, but to look for ways to bring it down if possible.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hartman.
Thank you, President Sneed, and thank you for the presentation and the gift. And if maybe poor Jeff Jackson wants to give his up, I could have earrings.
We can get you more.
All right. This is very, I think it really is 21st century learning, so I'm really excited to see that we're moving forward in this program. And my questions were actually going to center around the same thing, which was, what does classroom size look like, and what is current enrollment? So what I think I'm hearing is 52 is what we feel we would attract in year one.
Board Member Hartman, President Sneed, we are looking to, when we start, I have already lined up kindergarten tours every single Wednesday, starting a few weeks ago. And so the interest is out there. It's word of mouth. People are excited when open enrollment period begins. What we look at doing with enrollment is really a tiered system. So we open it to our families that are within boundaries. If we have students who are already open enrolled but have siblings who would like to enroll in the kindergarten program, and then you look at your open enrollment students. And then you go on a wait list, and as we get closer to, we know that when you enroll early, then we start calling families again in April, making sure that they're still interested in the program so that we don't lose any students to another program.
Okay. And thank you. And then my second question is, I always appreciate learning from what we've already done, and so I'm wondering if we've, what kind of lessons are we looking at, the lessons learned from our Pueblo Fly program, and how does that translate actually to this program?
Absolutely, Board Member Hartman, President Sneed. We've actually met with Julie Vasquez, Dr. Benson, sitting down and saying, what has Pueblo done? What has been their successes? What are some areas we need to work on? And we've been very thoughtful when we look at rolling out this program, which is why we started a year ago, being able to hire someone to look at the curriculum, looking at the standards. When you look at the Chinese characters, there's 1,000 they should know by the time they get to 3rd or 4th grade. So developing how many should they know in kindergarten, how many should they know in 1st grade, what assessment tool will we use to assess their speaking, their listening, when you get into the older grades, the writing of the opinion. And so we've been able to work with Dr. Whitmore, Dr. Benson, Julie Vasquez, as well as Megan Chen, our resident teacher, and really lining out what needs to work and what hasn't worked in Pueblo, as well as looking at the vertical articulation moving onward.
Ms. Kinghorn, if I might ask you to clarify something. If you had a waiting list of another 10 students, would you have a teacher to teach the class?
Dr. Birdwell, that is a fantastic question. Yes, we would have a teacher to teach the class. Dr. Wong is one of the leaders of the Mandarin Immersion Program. She opened the very first one at Gavilan Peak in Anthem. And with Megan Chen, our teacher from Paradise Valley, we really have had this connection with Arizona State University, and they've really assisted us in rolling out professional development, and teachers are approaching me knowing if I have openings for them, which is a huge thing, because when you look at someone who wants to teach Mandarin, they need to be highly qualified in elementary, speak the language, and be a native speaker, and you look at visa constraints. And so in having teachers who live in Arizona excited to come to Scottsdale is huge for us.
That said, then, what we would do is monitor the numbers and look at the expansion versus keeping people on a waiting list. So the biggest problem in putting a world language in is the teacher. We've tried to get ahead of this, and so we will be watching the numbers very early on, and if it looks like we can support an additional program, we will expand.
Mr. Jackson?
Principal Kinghorn, this is wonderful.
Thank you.
Very exciting. I guess just to follow up on Dr. Birdwell's question, the only, it's not even a concern, I think you've already addressed it, is if something, I know you, Megan Chen, I think is your teacher, just to make sure that there's, if we start down this road, if something happens and Mrs. Chen no longer leaves the district, or something happens, that we have, that this doesn't come to a screeching halt and we have students that are left. So just, I guess, I don't know how you address that, but it sounds like if you are looking at the ability to replace Mrs. Chen, which I cannot be easy, if in fact, so that our students don't start down this path only to be
left without a teacher that speaks Mandarin.
Right,
So-
absolutely. Board Member Jackson, the wonderful thing about having the ASU Confucius Institute here is we are looking to become an ASU Confucius school, and they really help provide not only professional development, but resources that are out there. And one of the exciting things about going to China with the College Board and Hanban is the universities that are there and the college preparatory courses that their teachers are being offered and who want to come to the United States.
And I want to add to that not only do they support the program at the elementary, they also open that professional development up through all the way K-12. So our high school teachers can actually benefit from that relationship. So a critical relationship for us to have as we build the program and go forward. And again, keeping an extra teacher in the pipeline is also a critical step in supporting Mandarin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Kinghorn. Kudos. And next, we have item 8D, update on gifted learning services.
So Dr. Wong is going to join us at this time. And for the community members, just so you know, the governing board had a work study and got to spend a great deal of time with Dr. Wong and talking about the gifted program. We are appreciative of the work and the progress and the work of our teachers in our district. And so somewhat of abbreviated this evening, but we did have a deeper conversation in a work study so that the community knows you have and will continue to have gifted conversations.
President Sneed, school board members, Dr. Birdwell, Mrs. Como. Thank you so much for this opportunity to get again to share with you. We will be doing a curriculum compacted version tonight. So we're looking at gifted learning services with the focus on learning and most especially on the systems. So we have three major goals: recruitment and customer service for students. Just recently, we tested 694 of our students to see if they would be eligible for gifted services. Out of that, we identified 83 more students. For our teachers, we're providing additional gifted endorsement classes. And for our parents, we've opened up a parent institute last October and met with them there at the national conference. And we hope that second semester we'll be able to host our own gifted institute here. Our second goal is to retain excellence, and we'll talk more about the 7 rigorous gifted learning practices that will form the backbone of our programs. We'll be developing a pipeline of services for gifted and high potential students, and our third goal is to raise the bar and opportunities for growth. We'll be focused on rigor and high achievement indicators. We'll create programs that nurture the development of gifted and talented potential, and look at consistency and quality program and services across all schools. The 7 rigorous gifted learning practices, as any profession would have, we are focusing on curriculum compacting, acceleration in math, enrichment of ELA, integrated thematic instruction, individualized quest, thinking globally and acting locally as a philosophy, and developing ways for leadership. We're starting with a pipeline that begins with a backward design of what's happening in our high schools right now. High schools that provide honors, advanced placement, the dual and concurrent college enrollment, and the international baccalaureate. And we want to bring those services all the way through, fully articulating down to the preschool. Here's an example of one of the plans that we have to accelerate math. In this model, we're looking at a 3-year acceleration, and each year we're gaining 25% more on the curriculum, so that by the time we finish 5th grade, we'll be able to finish completely with the 6th grade curriculum without skipping anything. At that point, it's already part of our process that students would be able to take their mathematics diagnostics test and determine whether or not they're ready and able for advanced math classes. These are recommended next steps to provide a rigorous and consistent gifted programming for all of our schools, creating the pipeline of programs from preschool to high school. We want to expand the existing programs, the International Baccalaureate, the Science and Math Academy, or the foreign language experiences that we have right now. Supporting STEM, perhaps having a district maker spaces that's similar to the Create Lab at the Arizona Center. Looking at accelerated math as a standard for all of our elementary campuses. And then to revamp the honors middle school courses. And finally, to assure appropriate training for our gifted, honors, international baccalaureate, and dual credit teachers. Because we know that teacher training is certainly the fastest way to create quality education within our classes. Any questions?
Board members?
All right,
And
I'll go to
again, for the
baccalaureate.
benefit of everyone in the room,
Yes.
we were able to explore this topic a little bit earlier during our study session. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next is item 8E, update on high school dual enrollment, advanced placement, honors, international baccalaureate programs.
So President's Need Governing Board, Dr. Von Echten is going to talk to us now about the next steps. Gifted doesn't look the same in middle school and high school. Matter of fact, what we do is we actually encourage every student to take an honors or an AP class. And truly at the high school level, we like to see our students challenge themselves with an AP course, particularly if they are a college-bound student. So he's done a great deal of work here. This stemmed out of a conversation that was kind of dual-fold. Board Member Kirby, we had some conversations about dual enrollment, but at the same time, we were having conversations in district about gifted and how that flows through. So we put both in here, so you're going to get a little bit of the continuation for the gifted and accelerated learners, both types of students, as well as talking about that dual enrollment opportunity that students have. So although dual enrollment may not be considered that gifted step, in reality, it is testing my skills higher because dual enrollment is taking that step into a college class. So Dr. Von Echten, thank you for your work on this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Madam President, governing board members, and Dr. Birdwell, thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on our advanced placement, dual enrollment, and international baccalaureate programs. What I'll do for you this evening is take each one of those courses, those programs, and provide a program description, the course offerings, student achievement within, and lastly, provide some recommendations for improvement in all of those areas. Perhaps we're most familiar with the Advanced Placement Program from the College Board. It's been in existence for several decades. And essentially, it is an opportunity as a college preparatory program for students to earn college credit. It's a fee-based examination that is done in every May, in May of every year, I should say. With that said, acceptance of AP credit varies by university, so our students have to be diligent in the information they get and where they apply those potential credits. Now, regarding the criteria to teach AP, frankly, there is no criteria for that individual teacher. But with that said, teachers in schools must submit what is called an AP course audit for approval by the College Board. Essentially, what we're looking for there is this syllabus that the teacher must provide should have a comprehensive curriculum map for the year and also include a list of the curricular resources that teacher would utilize. The College Board reviews and accepts that syllabus, and with that then, they are approved to start teaching that course. It provides some oversight and provides some a third-party kind of review, so to speak, in terms of what is being provided in that class regarding rigor. So what I provided here for you is a listing of our current AP courses. Please note that I have the brick and mortar classes as well as several e-learning courses that we do offer. Also, all AP courses carry a weighted grade in terms of determining GPA. And then I wanted to provide you just some a broad overview of the district results from this past year. This is testing from last May, 2015-16. Of course, students are graded on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is the highest mark they could receive. A 3, 4, and 5 are considered passing and might potentially be able to earn college credit at the university where that score is submitted. This is broken down here by our various courses across the district and has percentage passing as well as the total number of exams and that passing percentage. I provide this same information by site to each of our principals for review every fall. They can utilize that data to make the appropriate instructional decisions that they might want to make at their own site. I think something that's been important to note, or at least a theme that I have really tried to drive home with our sites, is that at least evidence presided by the College Board would indicate that regardless of a test score, students that take AP exams have a greater likelihood of graduating from college within their 4-year cohort. And I think that's important to note. And we've really tried to press upon our students that they should take that chance and take that test. Now, another opportunity to earn college credit is, of course, our dual enrollment courses, and it is just that. For qualified students that are placed within this program, they can potentially, well, not potentially, if they pass the class, they will earn college credit by the cooperating community college. Currently, SUSD has an IGA with Maricopa County Community College District, and we offer our courses with Scottsdale Community College and a course with Mesa Community. Additionally, SUSD has an IGA also with the University of Arizona, where we offer our engineering and our biology course. One of the things that I want to note here is that several years ago, the Maricopa County went to what is called the coordinating college model, and essentially then schools and districts are assigned to a cooperating community college based upon proximity or the history in terms of who they had worked with. For us, then, it is Scottsdale Community College, and it's sensible for Scottsdale Unified School District to work closely with that. I did too. You know, that's all right. We're all working on that component. You know, the example was several years ago. It was conceivable that at any one of our high schools, you might see representation from Mesa Community College, Scottsdale Community College, South Mountain Community College, Rio Salado, all vying for our students for dual enrollment courses. It was difficult to work through. It was difficult to get our students enrolled, and so the college went to the coordinating model again several years ago, and it seems to have has worked very successful in terms of assisting our students. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, that's coming up here. So here we have, I provided you then a list of our current dual enrollment courses, and this is a little busy. So what you have here is a list to the left is the actual community college course, the equivalent high school course name that we would have within the high school planning guide, the number of college credits that may be earned, and then across with the X's, if it's shadowed in the yellow there, that means the course is actually listed and offered for that particular school and is active. We have students in there taking the course. So when you look at advertising art at Arcadia, yep, they offer it. It's in the high school planning guide, and in fact, those kids are able to earn dual enrollment, whereas opposed, we're not quite there yet with Saguaro High School. So that gives you a little bit of a flavor across our schools of what we have available, and not only where they are offered, but where they actually have students enrolled. Maricopa County Community College actually operates with its own dual enrollment catalog. It lists all the courses that are available. So any course that is available to any other community college, SCC can also offer as a dual enrollment course with our own students. And in fact, if we wanted to explore the opportunity of offering a course that is not within the dual enrollment catalog by Maricopa County, we could look at trying to have a course offered and propose that. We would have our department chair and teacher work with their colleagues at the college, department chairs and such, and do a crosswalk of that curriculum, make sure the course meets the curriculum competencies of the college, and we could actually introduce then a new course if we care to. Now, in addition to dual enrollment, there is also then what is called concurrent enrollment offerings. And this gets a little confusing here, but a dual enrollment course is taught by a SUS teacher in an SUSD classroom during the course of the school day, and that student receives not only college credit, but then will also have that on their transcript for graduation here. There's also what is called concurrent enrollments, and that's an enrollment of a high school student outside of the district, but actually at the community college where they are enrolled at SCC, take the course SCC by an SCC instructor, but not only will that appear on their transcript, we honor that same course back on the SUSD transcript so that they can continue their graduation requirements here. Two such programs that we have is Achieving a College Education, which serves underrepresented students based upon SES and ethnicity. Students can earn up to 27 credits at the college tuition free. Currently, we have 99 students across all 5 high schools that are participating in ACE. An additional program, concurrent enrollment program, is Hoop of Learning, which is designed for our Native American students to get them enculturated into the community college system. And we have 15 students that are currently taking courses across 3 of our concurrent courses across all of our, across 3 of our high schools. And with that said, we're always flexible with our students. If we have a situation where, based upon a schedule, a student has a difficult time finding a calculus course or making that calculus course work within our own schedule, we would allow them to take a course concurrently based upon that schedule, honor that credit, and have them able to earn both the college credit, but working with their schedule, get that on our own transcript so they can continue with their goal of graduation here in SUSD. So this one gets a little tricky here. What are the qualifications of being a dual enrollment teacher? Well, you have to have a master's degree in the specific content area, let's say English, or a master's degree in any teaching field with 18 graduate hours in that specific content area. So master's degree in English, good to go. You can teach 101. Master's degree in secondary ed plus 18 graduate hours, you're good to go. And then you have to take EDU 250, which is a systems or a methods class, excuse me, for teaching it. And we're good to go. We have a dual enrollment instructor. Now, one of the things I want to mention tonight, though, is the impact of what was called the Higher Learning Commission. The HLC is an accrediting agency for the colleges and university system. Similar, think back to 2 years ago when we were working with our high schools with advanced ed. They come in and they do an accreditation of that school. Similar program, but this is now on the collegiate level. And one of the things that they made a very major change was, based upon this teaching criteria, there also used to be a second option, or a third option, I should say, in terms of being able to teach. And that was to have a master's degree in any teaching field and 24 credits of graduate and or upper division work. So it was conceivable you had that teacher with the master's in secondary ed and had 12 hours of graduate work in English and then 12 hours of level 300 and 400 of English. The HLC 2 years ago said no more, no longer. That's an impact for many of our dual enrollment teachers. That's also an impact on the community college in terms of the instructors they have, because so many of their instructors that come in are part-time, and they're subject to the same thing. So that's been some work, and we're working at getting all of our teachers accredited. At this time, 21 of our 47 teachers have completed the HLC requirements. We still have a ways to go. Some of the ways in which we have tried to help is, for instance, we have offered as a district, as SUSD, a one-time tuition waiver. So if that teacher takes that ASU course, because they're just short the one graduate course, they can be reimbursed for that tuition so that they can continue, and we can build capacity and maintain these courses. So we do still have some work to go with that. I want to note that really impacts only our academic courses. I'll show you in a moment, well, let me speak to it now. I already went through the list of our courses. Many of our dual enrollment courses are also what are called occupational. In other words, there are career and technical education courses. Those teachers are not subject to that same criteria. The criteria there is strictly their occupational background and experience. So this is truly our dual enrollment academic teachers that are subject to this. I wanted to share a little bit of data from how our students have performed in both the AP and the dual enrollment scenario. If you look across the very top, those numbers of 9,400 down to 9,000, just over 9,000, is in fact our high school enrollment over the last 5 years. And then when you look at the bar graphs, what that is our AP enrollment in the red. So for instance, in 2011-12, we had 2,652 enrollments, not students, enrollments, because students can take 2 or more AP courses. And then that was the number of students that, and then additionally, that took the test. And it's been good to see that over the years we've seen that trend upwards in terms of the number of enrollments we have, but also the number of students or tests taken, I should say. The line graph below that, or within that, then also encompasses then our dual enrollment. And you'll see that again in 2011-12 we had a little over 1,200 dual enrollments. And what we've seen over 5 years is now we have close to 1,800 dual enrollment classes that have been taken. So we're seeing them both trend up. I think one of the fears sometimes is that if we start to see dual enrollment numbers go up, that there's kind of an inverse relationship and we're going to begin to see AP enrollment decline or AP test decline. That's not always the case, and I think this kind of points in that direction. Lastly, our opportunity for college rigor and college credit is our International Baccalaureate program, which is offered out of Desert Mountain High School. It's open to all of our students across the district, and potentially a student can earn at Desert Mountain what is called their IB diploma. And again, that's based upon examination scores at the end of their senior year. There's no specific IB accreditation or certification, I should say, to begin teaching in that, other than that there is an expectation on the part of the International Baccalaureate that all teachers are trained in their course and the associated assessments that their students will take. With that said, all schools complete a 5-year review, and at that time, we have to show evidence that our teachers have been trained or are in the process of being trained. Most recently, Desert Mountain went through its recertification process, I believe in June of 2015, and we're good to go. All of our teachers are IB accredited, so to speak. This is a list of our International Baccalaureate course offerings at Desert Mountain. All of the IB classes do carry a weighted grade in terms of computing GPA. And then I just wanted to provide some data in terms of performance here longitudinally over about a 12-year period here. What we have is the number of IB candidates to the left. Those are students then that went through the junior and senior year and took the test. The number of IB diplomas earned, and then the success rate there at over 77% last year, for instance. To give you some context, International Baccalaureate says that the average passing rate is 80%, and when we look long-term at Desert Mountain, we've been averaging 85% over the 12 years that I have there for you. I also wanted to just get an indication of just what percentage of our students are participating. So I included then the percentage of grads earning the IB diploma, and you'll see that we've hit double digits for the most part over the last 5 years. Getting comparisons or benchmarks to other schools similar to Desert Mountain has been difficult. Schools, frankly, were not real forthcoming in what that was. I can tell you that one school that was willing to share from the Western metropolitan area had a 77% pass rate, and 5% of its last graduating class earned the diploma. So, one school, but that does perhaps provide you a little bit of context. So how do we inform our students and parents of these opportunities? Well, we have 8th grade registration by our guidance counselors, and we rely heavily upon our guidance counselors to steer students and parents in the right direction and provide the right kind of information so that they can make good choices. Additionally, we have our 8th grade information and orientation nights. Specifically at Desert Mountain, they themselves even have an IB night for potential Desert Mountain students. The ECAP preparation and the freshman transition that freshman year in terms of identifying coursework going out 4 years and how we can assist our students there. Also, our college and career centers and our specialists within those centers do a phenomenal job. And I would like to give a shout out to them that in talking to our SCC liaison, he was very complimentary of our college and career specialists. They do a great job. And I appreciate them very much too. Recommendations going forward. I have several here for you. One, we need to target and expand our advanced placement training and professional development to include perhaps requiring and funding attendance of summer institutes, and potentially perhaps hosting an annual spring or summer workshop ourselves in SUSD. Annually, one of our nearby districts does host that, and it would be nice to get ourselves into that game. I will tell you that our high school principals, utilizing a variety of resources, have done a fabulous job in getting our teachers to summer institutes. They do a great job. With that said, I don't know that we've had a coordinated effort to work on that in terms of rotating and making sure that all of our teachers have that opportunity. I provide that data to principals regarding how our students have done, and of course I think we then need to look at enrollment, the percentage of students passing the course and test, and see where we can provide some additional support for our schools. Also, we should better utilize our AP potential employing the PSAT results. Keep in mind that currently, and in fact tomorrow, all of our sophomores will be taking the PSAT practice exam, and we will get that information regarding their performance come November and December. And there's a variety of things that we can use with that in terms of informing our instruction and those pieces. But also one of the really nice pieces we have is what is called AP Potential, in which guidance counselors and our ed services people come time of enrollment can say, look, our psych AP, we've got 15 kids. There's got to be another 10 that we can get in there. And you can actually run the data and use that program to identify kids that would potentially, based upon their exam scores, would do well in an AP psych. And so we can reach out to those children. We need to build our DE course capacity, and of course, as I mentioned with the HLC requirements, we've got to get going on that. I would recommend that we continue to reimburse our DE teachers in meeting these requirements. Identify, in terms of building the program, potential course offerings. We need to look through that dual enrollment course catalog, and if we don't have a course at our high school that's in there, if sociology is available, and we should make every effort to see that sociology is offered, for example. Additionally, when we post for high school teaching positions, we might want to add the requirement, or at least a preference, that candidates be DE certified or have the capability of being DE certified. Also, support more frequent IB training, professional development. Nikki does a great job at Desert Mountain, and I know that we do within that cycle get our teachers trained, but it would be nice to see that we could have that more frequently, perhaps. Provide professional development for our principals to enhance instructional leadership relative to these things. Dr. Wong spoke to gifted education, and I can tell you when you look at an AP class, the high achieving kid and our gifted kid in there learn very differently. And those are the kind of things that we need to continue with professional development in terms of not just our teachers, but with our principals and how they can assist with that. Additionally, helping out our counselors and our college and career specialists so they can better inform our students and parents. And lastly, this is complicated. Any of us that have students entering college, when we start looking at the AP offerings, the DE offerings, IB, it's overwhelming, and if we can simplify that and guide them and help them, we would go a long way. So we could make some improvements, I believe, in some of that customer service. I do want to say that I want to thank all of our AP, our IB, and our dual enrollment teachers. It should be noted that they receive no additional compensation for taking this on. They are passionate about their content area. They're passionate about providing rigor and the best to our students, and they do a remarkably good job. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Van Acton. Mrs. Hartman.
Thank you, President C. Is this working? Can you hear me?
What? Sorry. Just sorry.
You couldn't resist.
First of all, Dr. Van Acton, thank you very much, and thank you to the teachers that are doing this because they're passionate about our students. The conversations around dual enrollment, AP, IB, I think are very consistent with our student achievement goals and 21st century learning. So really, it's great work, and thank you for leading along the way.
Okay.
My only comments are, other than being extremely supportive, is from an AP perspective, is we begin to look at what our district performance metrics would be. I would be interested in seeing the AP metrics both in participation as well as performance, so being the passing rate, because I think they're both two very different metrics, and I think Dr. Birdwell actually said this during work study or at some point, and you said it as well, in terms of this is about college and career readiness, and so every student participating in an AP program, I think, is really important for our students. So to the extent we also can take away any cost barriers, both on AP and dual for our students, I think I'd really like to have that conversation as a board. I'm not as hung up on the pass rates, although it is outcome at the end of the day. But I did look up on the internet. I was trying to figure out what our pass rates compare to just nationally on the AP exams. I know personally from being a chaparral parent, we have extraordinarily high pass rates, in particular our ELA areas. So we do some great work there. But what I did notice is that we are equal to or better than most pass rates, and it's at a curriculum level as opposed to an overall level. So just, I think us being more explicit about that and sharing that with their parents, that's an incredible marketing opportunity. And then with respect to dual enrollment, in the same vein, I actually did the quick math on that one, and we did from 2011 to 2016, we've gone from 13% participation to 19% participation, so that's a 50% increase. I think that is something that we once again should be proud of and share. And once again, I'd be interested from when we get to that part, when we're looking at overall performance metrics for a district, really looking at participation rate, because once again, this is an incredible opportunity for all students and families in a way to, because every dual enrollment is worth. I went out and looked at what the cost of, if they enrolled at the colleges, and it's $86 per credit hour. So it adds up, and once again, I'd like to take away the barriers to the extent that we can for anyone that may be prohibiting those students from finding that opportunity. So, thank you.
And relative to the AP, one of the pieces I didn't include on this graph is regarding that passing rate. We've been very consistent over those same 5 years of maintaining a 68% passing rate. So even with our increased number of enrollments and increased number of tests, the pass rate has remained constant. So that's good.
Thank you. Mrs. Kirby. Okay, thank you. It's working now, right?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So thank you so much for the presentation, the wealth of information, and also you and I had some, with Dr. Birdwell, email exchanges on questions I had. I don't know if the board members will remember, but this was requested as an agenda item as a result of an email we received from a parent in Arcadia who had compared the Arcadia offerings for dual enrollment to other high schools in the area and was somewhat questioning our commitment to the dual enrollment. Why don't we have more available to us? And so as I started digging into it, I had similar questions. And so I guess on the dual enrollment side, if you were to take away the X's that aren't in yellow, and then take away, what did you call them? Not the academic dual enrollment, but the occupational dual enrollment.
Left.
What would we be left with? And most importantly, what would that look like by high school? And I'm getting at the question of, are we consistently offering core academic dual enrollment classes across all high schools? And it's a rhetorical question. I don't really expect you to answer it right now, but it's something I'd like for us to think about. And if not, why not?
May I?
You may answer, yeah.
Well, the work that I have tried to do with the principals, and we have increased our course offerings, and students are capable of graduating with 30-something dual enrollment credits, and not just occupational. I mean, coming out of a 101, 102 English, and your Spanish, and an HPA science, and math, all those core areas you just identified. I think the piece that I would like to see at each of our high schools is the potential that our students can accomplish what is called the AGEC, the AGEC, which is the Arizona General Education Curriculum. And it's essentially a part of any community college program. It's a core of 36 to 42 hour core classes that when you complete that, it transfers completely to any university as a whole block. And essentially then that student would enter an ASU or U of A or NAU somewhere in their sophomore year, frankly. That would, in terms of what you said is, are we consistent across our schools with that? No, we're not. admittedly. We're not there yet. But I will tell you, in many of our schools, we are really, really close.
Okay, so thank you. My next question is, why stop at the AGEC? Why not shoot for a goal to have our students graduate with an associate in arts?
No, I agree. And we're not close to that. I can tell you now that we would only get there if students had that opportunity to take concurrent enrollments.
And why? And how, that's the part. Help me understand why. What's keeping us from working towards that goal?
Well, I think really, I'll be quite honest, is building teacher capacity. And when you look at the fact that
That's what I needed.
one of the requirements is a master's, I did some research, and when we exclude counselors and our special ed teachers, 45% of our high school teachers across Scottsdale have a master's degree. And in fact, in one of our schools, it's 33%, 1 in 3. Now, when we talk about building the capacity to offer courses that students can complete 60 undergraduate hours, that's 20 courses. It's difficult. We don't have that with our teachers, and we need to encourage that they can complete that.
Okay, so that was really at the root of what I was trying to get to. So thank you for that honesty. On that topic then, of the 47 dual enrollment teachers we have, you stated, I believe, 21 have met the criteria.
Correct.
Which, if I understand this correctly, that the Higher Learning Commission, this new rule is a hard and fast rule and goes into effect next fall. So that if our teachers don't have the proper certification, we cannot offer the class.
Correct.
Now that's being appealed. We'll know by mid-December of this year, in just a few days. But we could see these dual enrollment offerings drop off completely of our next year's high school planning guide if that appeal is rejected. And the appeal is being made by the Maricopa County Community College District, not by us. It's
Right, on behalf of all their colleges.
Okay, so of the 21 that have completed the requirements set by the Higher Learning Commission, how many of those are academic teachers versus occupational?
All of them.
Okay.
So that 47 are academic teachers only. I didn't even include, there's no sense in looking at the occupational side of it.
Okay.
So 47 teachers are subject to HLC at this time.
Okay, so I guess I'd like for us to develop a very specific strategy to address, well, I think we first need to have a strategy on AP dual enrollment, because I'm a little unclear as to where we as a district want to go with both of those, because they're very similar. You know, I had a point of view on AP versus dual enrollment, and I found out personally with my own daughter how wrong I was. I was under the impression that AP is if you wanted to go out of state, and dual enrollment's if you wanted to stay in state. Not true at all. Dual enrollment is now being accepted very widely by out-of-state private and public universities.
You just have the guarantee of law that it has to be accepted within Arizona.
Oh, right.
So you have that.
So one thing that other high schools are doing across the valley is their AP and their dual enrollment class are the same class.
Yep.
And so a student can take one class and get the dual enrollment credit with the passing grade and choose to take the AP exam at the end as well. And we don't do that.
Reluctance.
And help me with that.
I will tell you that many of our teachers and principals fear that by combining, we do that in one course at one school, AP History, where it's taught as an AP course and a dual enrollment course. But I think there's a fear that it will start cutting into those numbers in terms of AP tests taken. Now, I know that when looking at the College Board data, they would say, sure, taking that AP exam, pass or not, you're more likely to do graduate with your cohort in college. I'd be willing to also say that that same AP student who instead chose to just, I shouldn't say just, but took the dual enrollment credit probably has as great a likelihood, and it's just purely anecdotal, of succeeding in college within their four-year cohort. Because one, they're going to go down to the university with 30-odd credits beginning with, so they've got a great head start. But I think that's worthy of consideration. I've talked to my colleagues in a couple other districts, and some of those that have been most successful in terms of expanding dual enrollment, that is the way it has been done. All of your AP classes are also dual enrolled classes.
Okay. It's just, it's a very complicated area, and it's extraordinarily important. strategically. And I would just like for us to revisit this, maybe as part of the budget season, as we look at where are we going to make our investments, because the Higher Learning Commission is going to require an investment from us. You talked about the other investments, the AP training that we'd like to have our teachers do. So we just can't throw a bunch of money at both. We have to have some purpose and have some outcomes, as my fellow board member Hartman's always asking for, strategic outcomes of where we're trying to go.
Mrs. Perleberg.
Thank you. Those comments jump right into kind of the questions that I had listed here. But first, a little clarification. When you said there's concerns over the AP test, if you combine dual enrollment and AP, are you saying there's concerns that students won't take the AP test?
Right. Come May, they're earning an A or B in the course.
They would
I have
just
virtually
say-
guaranteed now that I'm going to get credit in History 103, 104. I'm going to ASU. Why would I take the AP exam? It's a lock.
And so what are the negatives? I guess I'm trying to understand the negatives for that trend. Is it negative for the student specifically, or
No, I don't know that it is,
the
other than I think
teacher,
a
or-
negative is, I would encourage that student to do, as Board Member Kirby said, both.
Right.
For the investment of an additional $89 to take that AP exam, I know with my own children, that was the encouragement. You need to be exposed to that kind of testing. I think we do get caught up a little bit in the numbers pieces in terms of percentage of kids taking and percentage of kids passing. I've always held that I'd rather see the kids enrolled in the course and potentially taking that test, but if they had the same opportunity to receive dual credit, I'd be equally supportive of that.
yeah, so there's no financial negative component to them not taking the test, is that
Not that I could
right?
think of, no.
Okay, so I mean, my comments and questions kind of were along those lines of recommendations, looking ahead for us and being ready to have those discussions during budget time of, you indicated that none of these teachers, whether they're AP or dual enrollment, receive no additional stipends. That's an industry standard, is that correct? I mean, kind of throughout other districts?
To my knowledge, I don't know that being offered, perhaps in our private schools.
And as far as attracting these teachers with these qualifications, is there any sort of, as far as, initial compensation, or is it just simply based on if you're an employee and you want to get
Well, I would
these
think that
qualifications,
student that
we will help
is
support
coming in qualified to teach the dual enrollment course, right there has already earned the master's. So in terms of placement on a salary, that would be recognized.
Got it.
But beyond that, there's no further inducement to get that teacher here.
Okay, but once they are here, and if they decide to go on, then we do help support, especially with the dual enrollment. Currently, we are providing reimbursements, and so I guess, yeah, that's the question going into budget, how much investment is needed, if there's additional investments needed, obviously with
Well, I think a
with the
long-term
changes.
investment is if we could continue to fund our horizontal movement. I mean, I think that was an unintended consequence for many years when teachers could not see that, and there was not the possibility of remuneration after investing a lot of hours and money into that master's degree, and I would hope that we could continue that. I think that would be a great step forward in terms of long-term improvement.
Ms. Perleberg, if I can jump in. Obviously, and Dr. Von Echten, thank you for the thoroughness, and he and I have had lots of conversations on this. We're both passionate high school people. There are other benefits to teaching an AP class, and so when you, matter of fact, that is the coveted position in staffing. Most teachers would like to have the advanced placement classes. They tend to be slightly smaller in student numbers. I visited one the other day at Coronado with 7 students. So sometimes they range from 7 to 15, and occasionally we'll have a class of 25 or more students, but they typically are slightly smaller. So there's that advantage. The students are very engaged in learning. There's that advantage. The students want to learn. There's that advantage. I think a critical piece to bring out something that Dr. Von Echten said, which was our students also are being exposed to a type of testing that the colleges will be asking of them. And that is a huge advantage for a student to have. So for the parents who are listening, all students who are college bound ought to take an AP or a dual enrollment course because they are graded differently and the request of testing is very, very different. That said, however, I think it's important to say that a course is only as good as the teacher who instructs in the course. So we must invest in the teacher and the teacher training and making sure that the teacher understands the curriculum that is different than a regular curriculum. Not even the governing board gets to overrule the college board when it comes to curriculum adoption. This is the one area under curriculum adoption that does not fall under the state statute that must be exposed and parents oversee and the board goes through approval. You must adopt the college curriculum, the college board curriculum in order to offer the course. That said, you, as a teacher, you must be familiar with that curriculum, and you must know that curriculum and be trained in it. And in order to teach in the honors program in the middle level teachers need to know the AP curriculum. They too need to be trained and understand their role in preparing the student for the AP course, because there is a correlation as a student goes through AP, whether it's in mathematics or whether it is in the English language area, that it doesn't start the day I enter the junior year. If you don't start reading the novels required under AP examinations in the 7th grade, you're not going to get through the list of 100 novels necessary to prepare for the examination at the AP level. So the critical conversations that must occur with the middle school principals and their teachers in honors to understand and support the high school principals and teachers in AP is critically important to our district. So we're beginning some of those articulations, and yes, we'll use this word, those are going to be mandatory meetings because we have to talk to each other. I have to, as a high school AP teacher, reach down to the 7th grade teacher and say, I need you to teach this so that my kids, your kids, our kids, when they get to AP at the junior level, are better prepared. Then there won't be the fear of the test and the lower achievement in some of those areas because there's been a strand of teaching that has gone on 7th grade all the way through. Truly successful AP courses have a relationship with prior courses. And that's why honors at the middle level is so critical. And we have to raise the bar in our middle level area and create that rigor. We have them in namesake, but I'm not sure that we have a total understanding curricularly of the rigor necessary to support the high school teacher. And that's the dialogue I think that is missing, that when we talk about recommendations and future training and communication, that's going to start immediately. So Dr. Benson is on that portion with the curriculum and pulling those meetings together. So there's a curricular component, and then there is the testing side of it. The kids tend to not necessarily want to do the testing. Parents want their kids to take the test. It's convincing your child to take an additional test. But in reality, the state's even gotten behind supporting this by saying, hey, your tax credit can be used for these examinations. So that tax credit dollars can now go to pay for your AP exams or your ACTs or your PSATs. So the state understands the importance of these examinations as well. It still takes a little bit of work on behalf of a parent to convince their child that the test is important. If the curriculum is not aligned, if the quality of the teacher doesn't exist, the student clearly will not do well on the examination because it is very curricularly driven. That test is highly aligned to the curriculum provided by the college board. So there must be that type of correlation that exists between the teacher, the curriculum, and the test.
Absolutely.
Adding to what you're saying.
Amen to that.
Thank you for that. And I think it does probably helps all of us understand a little bit better where those investments need to be, both financially and time-wise. And that's always our understanding, is that time is really the most precious commodity for this type of training. And I think with the idea of coming back to this topic and really trying to understand where investments are necessary and how we're going to carve out that time for these teachers and that professional development that's so critical. Just trying to get a solid understanding and picture of that for everyone, I think is
And
really
President
good.
Steeden and Governing Board, and since we have principals in the room, this is not to say that we don't have really committed teachers, but we need to provide the training and pay for the training and invest in these programs. If we're going to have the programs, let's invest in them. And so making that a priority during budgeting, as I heard many of you say tonight, I appreciate that. These are programs worth investing in, but we must invest in the teacher and the training, and we must recruit teachers who also possess the master's degree to help us build the dual enrollment and the AP opportunities for students. So we need to come up with a system on that too and talk about that. But these are under the term of what most districts call hard to fill. If you have an AP opening, a chemistry opening, a physics opening, a calculus opening, these are considered hard to fill. And you need to make sure you're rewarding years of experience and educational backgrounds and certifications, because these teachers are getting fewer and fewer among the ranks in Arizona. So to our teachers who have dedicated their time to continued learning, thank you so much. And to our principals, thank you for supporting the programs.
Mrs. Kirby, do you have a follow-up?
Is this working? Yes. Thank you for your comments, Dr. Birdwell. It spurred a question. The College Board sets the curriculum guidelines for the AP classes. Do they also set the curriculum guidelines for the dual enrollment classes, or is that set by the Higher Learning Commission?
College does. So we're subject to their curriculum guidelines, their grading practices and policies.
So it could, how do I say this? It would seem to me that the College Board would be, their guidelines would be comprehensive enough to cover all of the guidelines set by the community colleges. Is that true, or are they in conflict?
No, I would not say they're in conflict. I mean, I think when we looked at, if you look at the curricular expectations of an American History AP by the College Board, more than comfortable that, and our community college would be more than comfortable that we've covered that.
Okay.
Where you find some very unique differences is a college 101 and 102 English versus the English 4 AP, which is much more literature-based. So they're really two different courses completely.
Okay.
And absolutely different. And I'm seeing my high school principals go, absolutely. That's the most disconnect is in the English and literature area. But the other ones do have the strong correlation.
Okay, and I did think of one downside, and it may not be until I ask the question. The rankings, like the U.S. News and World Report and all of these magazines that rank high schools, I know that a component, having dug into those rankings, often a component of those rankings are the AP classes taken and the pass rates. And I don't know if it even looks at dual enrollment, if those entities look at dual enrollment to rank. So that would be a potential downside for us to consider, and that's the strategy I'm talking about. So if it's really important to us as a district to be able to tout that we were number whatever in the U.S. News and World Report high school rankings, then, we need to talk about it, and is that to achieve that ranking, are we willing, do we want to go down this AP path, potentially at the expense of the dual enrollment, and is that the right thing to do for all kids?
Agreed.
It's just it's a question, and I'd like to have more dialogue around it.
Mrs. Hartman, did you have another thought?
I did. Just the conversation kind of spurred a couple of thoughts. I think this conversation ties really well with what we're about to talk about, which is college readiness, right? This is about getting on track and staying on track early. And it is not in high school, it backs into middle school. So these are just three considerations for us to talk about, maybe not tonight, but as we move forward. One, I just wonder if there is any even remote linkage between kind of our highly effective rating and middle school participation in honors type programs. I wouldn't want to limit it to based on qualifications, right? That's a different challenge that we might need to address. But to the extent we have qualified folks, is there a way to tie in and incent to somehow, from a system standpoint, move the needle earlier so that they're ready to participate in these other programs by the time they get to high school? Secondly, on just a completely different but related note, to the vein of providing our students the opportunity to actually take an AP exam or participate in a dual enrollment course does really make them, or enables them, helps them be college and career ready, because they're just getting a unique experience. The other thing I might float out there is, because it's a huge trend in our state at the university level, are online classes. And to be successful in an online class is completely different than an in-school instruction class. And I don't know what the number would be, interesting to find out, but I bet 10, 20%, 30%, probably 100% of the university students are in an online class, and 10 to 20 to 30% are online. It's a complete different model. So should we have SOL, should our students be required to take some online class so that they're more prepared and ready at the university level? Because, so it's just something for us to talk about. It's a really interesting phenomena that I'm seeing in our own home, so it's kind of interesting. And then last is, how do we set, how do we continue to communicate to parents, right? We talked about how do we get them to understand that all of these are options, but kind of important options if they want to set up their student, their son or daughter, for future success. So how do we start eliminating the confusion and take away, it's participation versus performance. Of course you want performance, but how do we motivate and really just inform parents that these opportunities are out there?
I completely agree. Educating our parents in terms of these kind of options is, I think, crucial.
Yeah, I would say along that line, there is an incorrect perception amongst a lot of parents that if we go with the dual enrollment and we seek out the community college credit, that it won't count out of state, like Mrs. Kirby said. But when talking to the Maricopa County Community College people, when I first started on the board, one of the things that they pointed out with the dual not that one should be better than the other. I hope this board never goes down the path of choosing one over the other, because what we need is to service students where they are and what's best for each one of them. But there's a price advantage to the students if they're enrolled in a community college. Once they're in this, first of all, we have one of the best community college systems anywhere, and we need to make sure that people understand that and take advantage of it. But there is a price advantage to parents that once you are enrolled in the community college, then your student is assigned to that catalog. And so if tuition goes up, you still get the earlier price. So maybe we need to research that and let parents know that part of it too. Ms. Kirby, congratulations with your daughter. You'll find out that your daughter is eligible, at least in state. I don't know if they do it out of state, but she'll be eligible for the catalog from 2 years ago, and that will continue forward for the next 2 years.
Well, and to that point, even taking it a step further, if the student maintains a certain GPA, at a certain point along their continuum of taking those dual enrollment courses, with that minimum GPA being met, they start getting tuition refunded, so that the classes end up virtually becoming almost free. So there is a huge...
A generous system in terms of their tuition waivers.
Right. That being said, I would assume that there's some students that are taking both dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, and AP.
Yes.
So to me, that is meeting the individual student's need. So kudos for that, for everybody who's doing that. If that's what the student needs, that's what's best for kids. And I think that's what makes us unique. We may not be on the U.S. News and World Report. Personally, that is a very narrow definition of success, and I hope we never embrace it. But of course, the higher we are, the better. That's great. But it doesn't necessarily, the most important thing is meeting the need of any student wherever they are right now. And I think we do a good job of that. And I know so many teachers, so many principals that their entire life is dedicated to doing a better job at all times. So just thanks to everybody who's out there doing what's good for kids. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Benecton. The last information discussion item on our agenda this evening is item 8F, College Readiness Indicator System.
So, President Snead, Governing Board. Now, how do you identify some of these students? And so let's take a look at PSATs and some other testing measurements. So Dr. McCauley, Dr. Ross are going to share their portion of this process with us. So, you ready? Turn it over to you.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board, Dr. Birdwell, Sandra, and those with us tonight. This is the curriculum extended version. Just kidding, Dr. Nance.
I got it.
Tonight I'm going to talk about College Readiness Indicator System. And first I'm going to give you a little background. So here's what we perceive in Scottsdale. Can you hear me? Thank you, sorry. Most Scottsdale Unified School District students aspire to go to college. We hear that anecdotally. We survey the students, so we have some quantitative indicators as well. There's a dearth of evidence out there that supports providing rigorous educational opportunities early. Here's another little piece of information. Also, expanding access to nationally normed assessments measuring college readiness results in higher proportions of students from low-income families actually demonstrating readiness and matriculating into post-secondary education. And then finally, Arizona consistently ranks among the lowest performing states when compared on a national level. I wanted to give you some data to provide you the evidence of that. So we have your NAEP grade 5, we were 45th. 38% meeting the benchmark. Grade 8 reading, 35 was the ranking with 31% meeting benchmarks. And then 2016 ACT, 39% or 39 ranking. And then there are the meeting the benchmarks. Now, why would I bring that up? Why would I bring up the national data or Arizona's data and how they rank nationally? Well, we don't believe Arizona's Scottsdale's peer group. We want to compare on a national level. We want to compare to the best, and we're going to short ourselves and short our kids if we're only measuring against a low bar. So what we need to do is develop a college readiness indicator system. I want to read this quote to you. We must believe that we are gifted for something, and that this thing, at whatever cost, must be attained. That is true for everyone. We believe that all students can obtain mastery, but in the absence of systematic, as you put it, roadmap to get there, and without implementing a college readiness culture across the district, we are not going to see our students actually seeing their aspirations come true. So we have to systematize our processes and implement a college readiness indicator system. So what is that? Well, really, it's an intentional alignment of practices, policies, and data systems that are necessary to promote college readiness for all students. The other thing about this is it's essential to promoting equity and access to post-secondary educational opportunities, especially for students, and for all students, but especially for students that are underrepresented. So the CRESS approach, as it's called, was developed in 2011 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in cooperation with Brown University, with the University of Chicago, and with Stanford University's John Gardner Center for Youth and Their Communities. And so this is a very systematic approach to getting our kids college and career ready. And there are certain components to this system, certain elements that Dr. Ross is going to share with you.
Thank you.
I didn't.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell, Sandra, thank you for allowing me to talk to you about what a college readiness indicator system looks like and the different components and some of the things that we are hoping to do with this. So there are some essential elements within a successful CRIS implementation, and I should point out that all of these elements are activities in which we are currently engaged, that we have been engaged in, and things that we are taking a close look at. It's just that we haven't necessarily been packaging them all together within a specific indicator system for college readiness. So it begins with engaging a commitment from our leadership to this college readiness system, and we actually did a little bit of that this morning, sitting down with our high school principals and some others and talking about the importance of a readiness indicator system. We need to continue to build our data infrastructure, and not just building the infrastructure, but strengthening our adult capacity around using that data to indicate college readiness, and that obviously ties in with a lot of other things that we've presented to you so far this year. We need to take these indicators of college readiness, which are going to be unique and slightly different at every school. Every school is going to have unique needs for their students on their individual paths to college readiness. And we need to take those indicators and connect them with supports to promote college readiness. And then finally, we need to develop partnerships with community institutions and institutions of higher education. This ties in nicely with Dr. Von Echten's previous presentation. So a CRIS framework essentially is a tool that helps us increase the number of students who are ready for college. So in years past, the goal of our high schools might have been to get our students to graduate high school. You know, we do look at high school graduation rate, and then we look at matriculation into university or college, but it's only been within recent years that we've started to wonder, okay, we are graduating these students, but are we really preparing them to be successful at the next level, understanding that the next level is going to look a lot different for kids depending on what type of educational institution they go to. So the components of this framework would be setting the conditions that are necessary for college readiness, developing the processes for us to select our indicators and how to monitor and validate our indicators and track them, and getting a system of support in place for all of our individual students so that they can meet all of those indicators. Our actions would include early identification of students. So this could be identifying the students who perhaps are not on the proper road to college readiness, or as in the example that Dr. Von Echten provided, maybe identifying some kids who have the capacity to do well in AP psychology, but they weren't otherwise interested in taking AP psychology, or nobody suggested it to them that they should take it. So this is identifying the students where they are at and what supports we can offer them, and matching the students with those supports to get them farther along down the road. And then this is addressing the attitude, skills, and capacities of our staff as well. So what I'm going to do here, you have this presentation. The next 3 slides are very verbose, and I don't want to spend your time reading a bunch of words on the page. So I'm going to talk about all the slides together on this one. So within the college readiness indicator system, there are 3 dimensions for student success. One of them is academic preparedness, another is academic tenacity, and the third is college knowledge. I'm not sure if that's meant to be catchy on purpose and rhyme, but it works, so we'll go with it. So academic preparedness is what we've traditionally always focused on in schooling. So this is how well the students are performing on academic tasks. So this would be measured by GPA, by performance on benchmarks, state assessments, nationally normed assessments such as PSAT, ACTS, SAT, et cetera. We add in college tenacity, and this is that extra level that if we're not looking at this, we're not guaranteeing that just because a student graduates our schools that they have the tenacity that's required to be successful when they get to college. So this broadens what we look at, broadens the indicators that we look beyond just academic success, but now taking a look at things like attendance and discipline, okay? And do the students have the stick-to-itiveness to be successful at the next level? Because we know they don't take attendance in college, but you still need to be there, or bad things happen to you, as I found out myself. So we need to develop indicators where we can track this, where we can track whether students have the tenacity, and if they don't, give them the supports to develop it. And then finally, the college knowledge is, are our students, do they have the knowledge of how college works? Do they understand the application process? Do they understand what FAFSA means? Do they understand how student loans work? Do they understand what the college entrance requirements are and what the deadlines are? So we take these three dimensions, these three areas that we want students to have, and then we look at them three different ways. We look at what students need to be able to do in these three areas, so those are student level indicators. We take a look at the indicators for the school level, and then we take a look at the indicators for the district level. So these are what students should be doing, school, and district. So for example, with academic preparedness, one indicator we can look at, which we've started doing tonight, how many of our students are enrolled in honors and AP and dual enrollment classes? So initially, that is a student level indicator. Do we have students taking those classes? Well, at the school level, what are we doing to encourage students to take those classes? What are we doing to identify students who are not signing up for those classes but should be? How are we encouraging those students to get in those classes? How are we building their capacity? And then at the district level, what are we doing as a district to grow our AP and honors program? How are we supporting our teachers via professional development and staffing to increase the number of students in AP classes? So for tenacity, we mentioned the discipline and attendance. At the district level, have we provided a consistent attendance and discipline policy? We provided a consistent grading policy. At the school level, are we enforcing those policies consistently? And then with college knowledge, again, how much do our students know about the process of applying to college? Now, some of them will know some because they have an older brother or sister who have gone through it a couple years before that, or they have some parents who are in the know. But if they don't have those resources, then they need to get that assistance from the school, from a guidance counselor, from a college and career center specialist. So it's incumbent upon the school and the district to provide those supports to the students to make sure that they're not only getting that information, but that they're getting accurate information, and that the course of study that we're providing our students and our graduation requirements align with university requirements. And we do that. We know that our classes are accredited and universities take them, but those are the things that we need to do as a district level to make sure that our students are well prepared to have that college knowledge. So looking at the next three slides, there are a number of different indicators, and there are dozens of them. We didn't list them all on this slide. But some of these, so here's students, school, and district. Some of these would be indicators that are consistent across all of our schools. So for example, we could, raising the level and rigor of curricular requirements, for example, that's something we can do for all of our schools. That should be an indicator everywhere. However, individual schools need to go through a process of evaluating where they're at and what their roadmap needs to look at, or what the roadmap needs to look like, and they need to develop a unique set of indicators for their school, for the students and the school level, to determine what are the best supports and what are the things that we need to most track in order to get our kids college ready.
So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. McCauley, and she's going to tell you some specifics of what that looks like in Scottsdale.
Okay. Oh, but first, can I just tell you a few of the supports I forgot, because they blend very well with some things we've talked about tonight. So here are some of the suggested supports that we provide for academic preparedness. After school academic programs in school tutoring, advanced placement prep programs, so AP prep, pre-AP. I'd like to drill that down to 6th grade. Middle school IB, that's another support you could put in. SAT and ACT prep programs and so on. Bridge programs, and then the tenacity, getting college advisement, begin the college planning in middle school, not in high school. Start it young. It's never too early, ever too early. My son in 3rd grade told me, I want to get into the gifted class because if I get into gifted, I will get to be an AP when I get to high school. And if I get into AP, I can earn college credit and get to college and be halfway done. He was 9. It's never too early. And so the way you can really look at sort of some of the supports that the district's going to provide, it's going to be policy, procedures, and then the support and the expertise in district directors and working with the site staff. So now I'm going to show you sort of some of what we already have in place here in Scottsdale. So I got to put my glasses back on to see far away, sorry. For all students, we have PSAT results now for the last 2 years. AZ Merit, benchmark, end of course exams, GPAs, course taking patterns, very, very important. A couple of you nailed that earlier. Attendance, dropout rates, college application monitoring, ECAPS, FAFSA completion, and then post-secondary enrollment. We can get that data. For some of our students, we have AP data, IB data, ACT, SAT, CTE, and dual enrollment success. And then what we have are our students' aspirations. And how do we know they have aspirations? Because they tell us. And I have one last example that is, oh, whoops. Now I have examples, sorry, of our PSAT, and I actually equated it with the AZ Merit by converting the percentile ranks from PSAT to normal curve equivalents, and then matching them to the students' AZ Merit scores, and then plotted them. And you could see they're relatively, when you do look at the norm data, they're pretty similar. Right now, the cut scores for PSAT are off, though. When I compare PSAT cut scores for meeting a benchmark and AZ Merit, that right now is, there's a disparity. The correlation here was a 0.801, which is really, really good. AZ Merit Math was very well correlated with 0.732. Another example I have is an actual student letter I received. And here you go. Dear Dr. McCauley, my name is blank. I am a freshman at Coronado High School, but I attend Oak Campus. I am the class of 2020. Once I graduate high school, I'd like to go to UCLA. Then later on, I would want to go to cosmetology school. I would like to know what you do as an assistant superintendent of assessment. Have you ever helped a student with going to college? Do you know someone I could talk to about college? I look forward to seeing and talking to you. She knows she wants to go to college, but she does not know where to start. She is asking the assistant superintendent of assessment. Sorry, it makes me a little emotional. This touched me in ways I can barely describe, because the student has no clue. She really doesn't know yet, and I get she's going to go to UCLA. She might want to have her own business, have her own salon. How smart is that? Because if you don't know the business side, you're going to fail. And I happen to know that personally, not from myself, but a friend of mine. So, and with that, I have a final recommendation. We are recommending that the Scottsdale Unified School District implement a college-ready indicator system. And to assist with this, we recommend providing a nationally normed assessment in the fall of the 8th grade year. That way we get that data early, because it's too late by the sophomore year to know if a kid has the aptitude to take the AP class. In fact, we talked about college and career night, and I know Ann's having one coming up. And we said, wouldn't it be great if our middle school kids attended the college and career night, not just the 8th grade. We got to drill it down. I want the 6th graders there. And then we said, well, why not just have the elementary come too? Come to the high school, bring them to the building. And so everybody was very excited about that. So counselors, there's going to be a component of training, but we can get them started on their ECAPs. If we get that PSAT data in 8th grade, in the fall of their 8th grade year, by the time we get their results, it's time to register. They do their 4-year high school plans. Now they've got guidance. Our counselors can guide them, saying, okay, you should be taking very rigorous courses. We're going to retool the middle school honors program. It's all perfect. It all lays out perfectly. We need pre-AP for kiddos that are going to matriculate up. We have a problem with world history. It's offered at the sophomore level. If we're not testing kids to know who has the aptitude for the rigor of the composition and the Lexile levels to read the content, then they're not going to be there. And that's one of the biggest complaints I always heard from my high school teachers was, oh, can't we do world history AP at the junior level? They're just not ready to write yet or read at that level. I'm like, and they're going to be in a year? But once we have the data, we start prepping those kids and we get them ready to read at that level and write at that level. We also recommend following up with an additional nationally normed assessment in the sophomore year and providing the SAT or ACT in the junior year to all students. This is to all students. That's it. Any questions?
Members? Mr. Jackson.
Oh.
Hi.
First.
You first. Yes.
I woke up. I'm kidding, Dr. McCall. That wasn't about. I was kidding.
Oh.
That wasn't directed at you. That was making a bad joke.
Okay. I know I was a little flat tonight.
This is impressive. I just wanted, Dr. Ross, for you too. I know this work has been done all along, right? I know that just inherently that principals, middle school teachers, high school teachers are doing the vast majority of this work. They always have been. And so, but anything, I think it's, if we're putting some structure around this, maybe we'll help some kids that are falling through. And anything we can do to obviously direct kids to go to college and do whatever we can to assist them. Just like you said, that about that student at Cornell High School, I think they don't know where to start, some of them. And anyway, this is wonderful stuff. I won't go on, it's getting late. I'm very impressed by this, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hartman.
Thank you. So my short answer to the whole presentation is yes. This is great. And just a couple of quick questions for you. On slide 130, where you...
130?
130, where
Slide
you...
130. Were there that many?
Our page.
Oh, okay. I'll just speak to it. We don't need to look at it.
No wonder he was asleep.
It's okay, Dr. McCauley. We have a different numbering system than you have to.
Okay.
Don't panic.
All right, so let me just ask this question then. On the very first slide that you had that provided the norm.
What?
That provided the norm, the
Oh,
comparison to the national
the
norms.
national datas.
Yeah.
Data?
That was Arizona data, wasn't it?
That was Arizona, not Scottsdale. That's why we're saying that is not our group. That's not our peer group.
Yeah.
Our peer group is...
So well, wait, there were two sets of numbers on there. That was how we ranked compared to the country.
Yeah, and then the percent of students meeting the benchmark set for that assessment.
Right. So my question is, do we have that same information for SUSD? Because I would like to know where we rank.
Not on NAEP.
Okay.
They don't give us the district level data.
Okay. So we just figured out by comparing ourselves nationally, is your point?
We figured one out. No, on the NAEP, I don't have Scottsdale's. This is Arizona. I only displayed this to show you we don't want our peer group to be ranked 45th. Our peer group needs to be Massachusetts.
Okay. All right.
They're number one on everything every year.
All right. So said another way, we're addressing that with the CRIS system by looking at nationally normed exams like PSAT, SAT, ACT. Okay.
Yes.
Which is a good thing.
We call this academic press or stretch goals,
Yeah.
where you're pressing the kids, but if you're measuring against Arizona, how are you going to get that academic press going? Remember, we're always setting a target.
Okay. Okay, so that's good to understand. Question for you. The goal is to motivate, to engage students earlier in the process. So CRIS is college-ready information system. And I think this is really a question. So that works really well in a high school where 95% of the kids are college attainment. But what about a high school where it's 60% or 70%? Does that CRIS name kind of intimidate somebody? Would it behoove us to be college and career ready? Because it really is being ready for either.
Well, Board Member Hartman, I believe it's even more important to have this system in place at a school where if it was only 60%. It's an indicator system, so that school's indicators would look different than the school with 95%. So they would be focusing on different things to get their kids college ready. But the part of the school and the district focus is going to be the college mentality. It's going to be peppering the school with college pendants. And I mean, even if you walk around right outside this room, you're going to see information about colleges and universities. And that needs to be the mindset at all of the schools, is that this is an institution that's preparing you for college.
The goal of habituating mastery mentality. We need to habituate it, and in order to habituate, we really want to start young. We'll have the best success.
President, Student Governing Board, Mrs. Hartman, by placing a PSAT in the 8th grade, you look at the aptitude of the students, and whether you're 60% college bound or not, you're still identifying more students who should have one-on-one counseling to talk about their future. A teacher corrected me yesterday. Not often that I get corrected, but I enjoyed that moment. That to be a plumber, you make really good money. But to be a plumber, my response was, requires further education. It's not so much that we're in a trade system where I get to go into a following of the trade to learn the trade, but most trades, most careers today, unless I'm working in a fast food restaurant, a retail market, but most careers require some college education. So even though I might be a 60% college-bound school, if we don't open up a college readiness, we've actually closed the door to the future for the students. And I will say, by looking at PSATs in the sophomore year, we've been missing some kids. Mm-hmm. We can actually show you data where some students who should have been told or counseled that they have great aptitude, great opportunity, haven't been told that. So there's two pieces to it. One, you give the test, but second, learn how to use the test to help children and parents make decisions about life, whether it is career or college, because again, most careers require further education. The other piece of that, the correlate that's really critical for kids to understand, to be successful in careers, you need strong English skills and strong math skills. And so it puts an emphasis on my education for a student to understand that whatever career I choose, here are some critical correlates of success. Oh, by the way, they also go into things like collaboration and teamwork. And so as we begin to explain to a student, and again, it's counseling our students early. But I beg to differ in the fact to say, I'm not sure that ECAP has been completed for every student. And it needs to be. And it needs to be done in the elementary level, at the middle school level. Second to that, are all students having an opportunity to see a counselor every year? And they should be. And we need to make that happen for kids. And so not only does the classroom teacher help me build my dreams, but the counselor helps me set my plans. And then my principal continues to help me guide that with my parents. So it is a team process of all of us working together and understanding our roles that are critical in helping kids be successful in their future. But the data helps the dialogue. And then the data being sent home to a parent, just receiving a letter that says, your student has aptitude for challenging courses, will bring a parent into the office to say, okay, what do you mean by this? I got this letter. And my kid has aptitude? Really? This is the first nice letter I've ever gotten. So, and I've done this with parents, where parents are shocked when they get that letter to say, what aptitude? Because kids don't always show that to the parents, they don't always show it to the teacher, but it may exist.
Thank you. So, agree, 150%. Two questions. One's actually just an idea I'm just wondering about. I had this conversation with a teacher had pointed it out to me, but in 2008, actually, before the cutback of all the school funding, we used to fund in-state college tuition for anyone who was in the top 10 percentile of Ames, which is now AZ Merit. And we took that all away. And what's interesting about that is I didn't realize, so one, it's obviously a nice economic financial benefit, but the other thing that it did is it motivated kids to do well on exams. You put a little, skin in the game. And the parents had some skin in the game. You better, eat breakfast and do well and, all those kinds of things. So I am wondering if there's something that we could consider as a district, because the state's not going to do it anytime soon, although we should probably put it on the ASBA list to maybe think about as, one of the conversation points or legislative points. But is there something we can do as a district that's creative around that?
And Mrs. Hartman, when you said we, you meant the state?
No, I mean SUSD. I'm not waiting for the state.
No. I mean before, that it used to.
Oh, it was at the state level.
Okay, because I just want people to understand. When you said we used to do it, it wasn't us. It was as a state, yeah. There was a tuition waiver.
Yeah, and it motivated. It had some great unintended consequence too. So I don't know what that looks like, but it'd be something that would be I'd be willing to have a conversation on to figure out what that might look like.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Harmon, and thank you, President Snead, for that clarity, because I think it's so important for the public and so many people log on and watch these meetings. I am learning that in Scottsdale. And it's so important to be informative that there was a time when tuition was waived if you did well in your Ames scores. And I think that it was a huge motivator for students. We saw students take that test very, very serious. There was a time when the legislators talked about putting the Ames scores on the transcript. There have been times that the colleges have talked about weighting different pieces. It's certainly a continued dialogue. I think the reality is also creating a culture that says, test taking is part of preparing you for college, and we need to help you with that. Some courses, and we all of us will remember, some courses I got 2 grades in. They were 2 tests, and that's it. So when a teacher chooses to waive a student's test because they're being nice and bless their hearts, that's not a good motivator for a high school student, because you've actually hurt them in preparation for college. There are other motivators that are better for students than to say, well, if you all do this or you all get a certain grade, I'll waive your final. And there are some school districts that deal with the issue that if a student gets an A, they waive the final. That's not helping kids prepare for college, because at college, I might only have 2 grades in their test, and I have to learn to be a good test taker when I hit high school. So we need to make sure that our policies and processes support success for students beyond high school. And so all of those nuances, those little moving parts really do make a difference as we set a culture that Dr. Ross was talking about. And so, yeah, and I will say this, I don't ever think we should forget the career side, because career today is college as well.
And the more college ready you are, the more career ready you are. The very skills that the industries are saying they need students to have are the same skills the college professors are saying students need to have. There's really no differentiation between the skill sets that the two entities are asking for. So if we make them college ready, they're going to be career ready. They're going to be more career ready. The collaboration you spoke about, all of those things.
And I know it's late, but if I could just bring one more point out in this. There is an unwritten curriculum that occurs in going to school, and it's everything from showing up to school, attendance, getting to class on time, working in a team with my peers, doing my portion of the work, completing the work. That is career preparation. And for us to diminish any of that extra work that goes on is actually to set a student up for less success in their futures. So believe it or not, when we write an attendance policy and the governing board puts that in place, that's helping a student learn how to get to work on time, learning how to get to that class at college so that they don't have that negative experience that Dr. Ross had. I was listening. It is all of those unwritten curricular pieces that we often don't talk about. We talk tonight about all of the coursework and the wonderful teaching, but there's a whole nother piece of this that is part of the culture of schooling that is actually preparing for work. That I don't want to ignore the fact that the kindergartner teacher teaching kids to actually keep my hands and my feet to myself and to stand in a line and the bubble thing that you all teach that's so cute. Are all important little pieces that are developing the child for their lifetime skills that are going to help them be successful career or college. So I don't want to be remiss in saying that the other pieces that we're teaching are also lending to that creation of the whole child.
So, thank you. Just two last questions, and one was to that point. These tests really do focus on the cognitive versus the non-cognitive, and I think Dr. Ross talked a little bit about it when he called it about academic tenacity. So it would be a good conversation at some point. How are we teaching, or how are we assessing and supporting those non-cognitive behaviors, whether it's tenacity or perseverance or grit or, self-motivation, those kinds of things, which are exactly right. That is what creates successful, functioning human beings in addition to be academic.
Board Member Hartman, what's nice about this system that was developed in coordination with those three universities is the best researchers, among the best researchers worked on this, and so the indicators, supports, and then the types of measures they recommend you using is all inclusive in their technical manual. And so just as you're saying, it'll tell you, so policy is a way to measure student surveys to get to those attitudes, those non-cognitive attitudes. ACT has an interest inventory that also is non-cognitive, that is more self-discovery and helping even zero in more on things they might be very successful in.
Right, and thank you. And one last question, and then I'll just zip it, because this is all good. I thought it was really interesting how I don't know how you did it, but you took the 10th grade PSAT and compared it or normed it to the AZ merit?
No, I just converted a percentile rank to a normal curve. But so all right, now we're going to get into the equating of PSAT. They used AZ merit data as part, and other states' assessment data, did kind of a compendium approach, and then matched it, equated it with PSAT. Students who went to college, took the SAT before they started their freshman year, and then correlated those scores with how they did at the end of the freshman year. And then they rolled it back down to 11th grade, 12th grade, 11th grade, 10th grade, and then 8th and 9th for that PSAT. That's why their benchmarks right now, they're still adjusting.
So this may not even be an accurate question then, but if the PSAT correlates well with the AZ merit, in 10th grade, could you use 8th grade AZ merit performance, because they're going to take it anyhow, as your normative exam, so that it's not an additional exam?
Or a different nationally normed assessment that may provide us better evidence or different evidence, because right now what I was told and what I'm understanding, and I may just not have comprehended what I was told because I wasn't told by a technical person, I was told by a salesperson. What they did, it sounds to me like they just really did equi-percentile equating with Arizona's AZ merit data and Arizona students who took PSAT, is how it really sounded. And I don't think I could have come up with that high of a correlation had it been nationally normed, but they were digging in to find that information for me.
If I might add one more piece to that, I think that as we go forward with the state labeling system, and there's committees working on that right now, the state committee that doesn't have a psychometrician, so that'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But as that rolls out, that may give us some latitude for the board to continue a conversation to say, in Scottsdale, here are the tests that we're going to give. We certainly never want to over-test. So if in some places we're able to have the flexibility to assign the test that we think has greater value to us than, say, an AZ merit, if we're given that flexibility, that will be the kind of dialogue we'll have going forward. There is somewhat of a desire at a state level to let the school system, the local LEA, choose the testing that will be given in their district. And so as that goes forward, we'll keep you informed on it. We're listening to that dialogue. Nothing has been decided at a state level. I hope they give us enough time to make decisions. Sometimes those pieces come a bit late it takes a little while to roll it out. But that's something we should keep our ear tuned to, and we'll bring that back to the board as the state's having the discussion and we're listening in, and we'll see where we actually end up. But I think there's going to be some latitude in the testing world. So in other words, accountability will still be important, but you're going to get to choose the accountability system. And I think that if that occurs, it might give us a better opportunity to say, we do want nationally normed. We want to know how Scottsdale's doing on a national level, not just a state level.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that, because that's my other question for the College Board is, or was the percentile rank not a national percentile rank? Was it really just Arizona? And so that's the other possibility. And so if that's the case, then that's not a good thing, because that's not going to give us that national comparison. So my other question for them was, all right, is the percentile really nationally normed or not? I've got a lot of questions. I've been in conversation with them.
Mrs. Kirby?
Thank you. I have one question. Great presentation, Dr. Ross. I appreciate it. And it's along the same line of thinking. I thought I heard somebody say PSAT could be the test in 8th grade. My question is that just kind of, you're just saying that so that we can wrap our minds around what this might look like, or is there another more appropriate nationally normed test like the SSAT or something else?
Yes, I didn't mean to say that one.
Okay.
I meant to make it general, that we will evaluate what we think would be the best, looking at and talking to their technical experts, and then making that determination. And then talking to other people too, saying, well, what's it looking like for you? What are your correlations looking like? And just really taking a scientific approach to selecting what we believe to be the best representation of how our students are ranking nationally to students, their peers across the nation.
Okay.
And thank you for that clarity, because we use PSAT just simply because it's something we give in the 10th grade right now.
Yep.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yes, and ACT changed their name from Explore to Aspire, and so I didn't mean to single one out as recommending that.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to Mrs. Kirby, thank you for asking for that clarification. The nationally normed assessment beginning in the 8th grade. So as a parent, I wouldn't want to hear from this conversation or take away from this conversation that my child is now going to be taking PSAT in 8th grade instead of 10th grade, and that might ruin their chance for national merit. I just want to make sure that nobody walks away with that misconception.
No, it doesn't even qualify for it. If anything, it'll better prepare them. So the literature says that's provided by the College Board, because it, just as Dr. Birdwell mentioned earlier, it's kind of like a practice. I mean, think about AZ Merit the first year out when the kids are like, what am I supposed to do with this, you know, drop, what?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that there's clarity around that before we get inundated with questions.
Oh, no. And of course, it also provides an early warning system for kids who aren't on track so that we can provide support specific to those kids. So it kind of stemmed out of an early warning system, to be honest, this system.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The next item on our agenda is item 9, future items. At this time, board members may propose topics for future consideration. Ms. Hartman. You guys tied, so I'm just...
I don't have a topic to request. I just would like to call out, and the topics we did discuss tonight as information discussion items. If we all reflect back about what we talked about, we talked K-12, we talked gifted, we talked second languages, we talked IB, AP, very, very rich, all academic related topics, and that makes my heart smile. I'm so happy. And I wanted to thank Dr. Birdwell, all the presenters, and anyone who had a part to play in the information that was shared tonight, because it was very high quality. Thank you.
Mrs. Hartman.
Thank you. My heart sings as well on the topic, so it's thank you. Two future topic agenda items. I would like to honor some of the public comment that we had earlier tonight about the superintendent, permanent superintendent selection and search process, particularly in the area of transparency, because there have been some conversations that have been happening behind the scenes. So if we can make that an agenda item as appropriate in November, sooner than later, so that we can be transparent and move through the process, I think that would be good. I thought maybe Dr. Birdwell, you might share a few things, but maybe it's not, we're ready for prime time on that yet, but if we can get it on the agenda.
We just have to be careful that we're just talking topic.
Okay, so that's the topic.
We'll get that topic on.
Okay, great. And then second topic, the teacher classification discussion is that not so much that as the topic, but a topic around the culture. Board member Perleberg is one of her favorite subjects, culture. What do we need to talk about? The culture, so that there's a culture of trust and theory understanding of spirit of continuous improvement, so that we can get to a place where we have maybe a more reflective teacher and principal evaluation process, so that we can continuously improve and achieve all these things that we talked about tonight effectively in supporting, the whole structure around these goals. So maybe it's a culture of continuous improvement, or however we want to frame that.
I'm sure that can be massaged.
Okay, thank you.
I also wrote down the, I think Mrs. Kirby that asked for a professional development day structure conversation, or, okay. And also, I heard tonight the AP dual enrollment, and further discussion is what I'm hearing, is that we want to hear more, okay. Okay. The dates of the upcoming meetings are Thursday, November 17th, 2016 at 3 p.m. There will be a study session at the Mojave District Annex. Tuesday, November 22nd at 5 p.m., a regular governing board meeting here. Thursday, December 8th, 2016 at 3 p.m., a study session at Mojave District Annex, and Tuesday, December 13th, 2016, 5 p.m., a regular governing board meeting here at Coronado, and that takes us through the end of the year.
And I might add, in December, we are going to do a celebration, so the community has this on their date, celebrating the years of support that we've received from President Sneed and Member Jackson. And so following that board meeting, we will have a celebration here in the boardroom, and we invite any public members who would like to come, and certainly your family members would like to celebrate your years of service.
Thank you. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.